All right, let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 169. I am Annie, or also known as Annie Fuchsia. You can find me most of the time probably streaming on Twitch. If not that, I'm probably sleeping or doing something else World of Warcraft related. For this week, we have, or not just for this week, for every week. For every week, we have the lovely Perculia co-hosting with me. So let's go straight to her.
Hey everyone, I'm Perk. I run Wowhead, so the news, guides, features, all the content you see on the site I help oversee. And it's always really fun to do the show because I get to take a break from working behind the scenes to share and discuss all the cool stuff we've been doing on Wowhead and all the news you guys find interesting to read. And I also have a cat who's biting my hand right now. So we have a ton to discuss. Blizzard was awesome enough to give me this collector's edition, which also has novellas, which can explain Warbringers Sylvanas a bit more, and that's another big topic to discuss as well. Annie and I are both for the Alliance. And just a lot of War of the Thorns and
internet
on this week. Oh no!
Okay, there was a little bit of lag, but I think you're back.
Okay.
Yes, you're back. You can go on.
So, yeah, before we start, we have a giveaway in Twitch chat. It's a choice of Wowhead Store t-shirt or mug. The keyword to enter is t-shirt, and you can spell it whichever way, like T-shirt, shirt, capital T, just enter T-shirt somehow, and you will enter.
Oh, that's cool. So you could type it in multiple ways and it works.
Yeah.
It just works. That's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, t-shirt. There you go. There you go. And speaking of those t-shirts, we'll be sharing some of those pictures from the store later today as well. So yeah, there's been some heavy topics lately. Heavy topics lately, which we'll be going into very, very soon. But I think maybe we should start off with the unboxing. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, let's start off with that. So, we've known the contents for a while, but Blizzard was kind enough to send me and some other figures in World of Warcraft an actual collector's edition to share with you guys. Is this a good angle to show it at? Just move up or down?
This is perfect.
Great. So, we've got the box. It's got kind of embossed stuff on the side of it. And the blue stuff kind of reminds me of glowing azurite. And then on the back, of course, they've got the explanation of all the digital deluxe things that you can get or already get if you have the digital deluxe copy. So let's open the box. So I've opened the box. And now what you first see is this.
Ooh.
And this is a two-sided novella, if I can pull this out. So on one side, we have the Alliance logo, and then on the other side, we have the Horde logo, and you can see how it's flipped
that looks
around.
So cool.
And it's really beautiful. Like, if you just zoom in, you can see how there's, like,
it's a little bit higher.
And it's
there we go.
Yeah. So you can see how it's all, like, embossed, like glowy and bumpy, and the colors are slightly different. So there's like blue edges there, but then if you look at the Horde one, the details are very subtle red.
Yeah, you see the red details.
And we have a whole segment on the show going into the contents of this, but I just wanted to quickly highlight how if you read it from one side, you start off with a good war, which is the Horde storyline. And then if you start reading from the other side, this is the Alliance version, which is Elegy. I believe these stories will be available online for everyone to read, so you don't feel pressure to spend like $100 on a collector's edition. But what will be unique to the collector's edition is a lot of unique artwork. So here we have like Malfurion. There's a good one. Let's see. It's a lot of different artists, so there's a bunch of different styles. And they're all different. So some are full page illustrations, Like here is Sylvanas and Dalaran. We have a really sad one of the Temple of the Moon. But then we have like smaller sketches interspersed throughout the novel, like this Kaldorei family.
Oh.
And yeah, let's just show a few Horde ones too. So
yeah, Perk's mic kind of dropped down, and then what I tried to do was just increase her volume to max, and then when it was back, it may have sounded really loud for 1 second, but then I quickly turned it down to where it should be, so it should be good now.
This I know is a fan favorite picture so far on Twitter, especially after like learning what Sylvanas does. Everyone's like, yeah, like fighter Malfurion. And I also think that this one is really beautiful, where you get to see Tyrande actually, you know, like she's always just standing in the Temple of the Moon, and now we see how she's a priestess, but she's also very like wrathful and powerful in battle. So this is the novella. It's about 70 pages on each side. I know there was some disappointment that there wasn't an art book, but this has, like every other page, has some sort of art in it, whether it's like a sketch or a full illustration. And it's a very powerful set of novellas. I was like crying reading the Alliance part, which we'll get to very soon.
Aww.
And yeah, the Alliance part is by Christy Golden, and the Horde part is by Robert Brooks. So we also, after we pulled that out, we also have a few more things in here. It took me like 5 minutes to get this thing out before, so let's see how this goes. Oh god, it's not going well. Maybe I'll deal with the other stuff first. Come on, Medallion. I'm like... So everyone being like, oh, it's a small coin. It's not a small coin. I like cannot pry this thing out of the box. No, seriously, I could like get a fork or something to pry it out. I knew I shouldn't have put it back in. Okay, well, everyone can watch me fail at this excitedly as I try to like actually pull the packaging in.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's super heavy. It's like a metal coin that's embossed. Come on. Why am I talking to the coin like it's a cat?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Exciting.
You got
it.
Awesome.
So
there it is.
This is the Alliance side, and this is the Horde side. It has some weight. You know, it's like the size of my hand. And you can display it on your desk, I believe, with this thing, with instructions on the back.
Oh, like a stand.
Yeah, so I don't know for this, but yeah, so it's a stand that you can set up. And then you can, you know, just sort of have it lying on your desk, like, I don't know, a paperweight or something fun. And
someone's asking, is it metal or resin? I'm not sure what resin is.
Let me check the it is, they say that it says that it's metal in the in the product description.
Oh, resin means plastic? Okay.
No, it's not plastic. It's metal. Bright Paw, look. Oh, he's sniffing the box. You can probably see him.
Yeah, we can see him.
Look,
like, well, there's Perk on full count. I need to get some.
Yeah. So that's the medallion. Bright Paw liked the medallion yesterday. And the
where's the banana, Perk?
Yeah, I know. Instead of a banana, we have a cat. You were part of the
we have a cat for scale, guys. We have a cat for scale.
The other thing we have is this fancy envelope. You can't really see it, but there's like little black, like shiny things to make it seem like a, you know, real luxurious envelope. And if we open it up, we have, so it looks cool as well. So if we open it, we have...
Ooh, lag.
Oh, yeah, now you can see it.
Seems okay now. Yeah.
So the lines and the board.
Yeah.
And then we also have the, I'm not going to show them on the stream, but we've got the game key, and we've got a soundtrack key, and they have, it's not, I mean, the key's on the front, but if we look here, they actually talk about the soundtrack and then special thanks on the back.
Okay.
I know people were like, oh, I actually want, you know, a physical like disc to hold on to, and this is not as, you know, I want to actually collect stuff. So, you know, at least I think the envelope is nice.
How does the soundtrack work then? Do you like download it somewhere, or?
It is redeem at go to Battle for Azeroth soundtrack.com and enter your digital sound key.
Okay.
So that is how that will work. And I know some people actually wanted the sound, like an actual soundtrack to hold on to, but I can see why they did to say on packaging, especially, you know, with this really heavy medallion, and how, you know, these novellas actually have text, not, you know, not just art with them. And they were like 2 stories in one. But at least this is like a cool envelope you can say that you've, you know, collected. It's not just like, oh, well, here's like a coupon with a number on it. It looks fancy. So
I think there might be maybe another thought behind the CD thing as well, because most people, or not most people, maybe that's wrong, but slowly but surely more and more people are lacking a CD drive.
Yeah, so, I just like, you know, someone's like, I want like a record player with, you know, like vinyl.
Yeah,
there's always that type of collector.
That's true.
But yeah, so that's the collector's edition. A few more reminders on. Right, Paul, don't go on.
There's a bit of lag now.
I don't know why it's doing this. Like, I could reset this, but I don't know why it's
looks fine now. Yeah, it's been doing this a little bit with Perk's internet today, but hopefully it shouldn't affect us too much.
Yeah. I want to just have a few quick thoughts on the collector's edition. When you get this, you also get a lot of in-game content. You get the Gilded Ravistor Horde mount, the Seabraid Stallion Alliance mount, and Toddle the Baby Tortolan pet, a character boost to level 110, other stuff in Hearthstone, like an Azeroth is Burning card back, Primal Flame Saber mount in Heroes, Overwatch, Bright Paul, your nails are hard. Oh. Overwatch has a bunch of things like Zandalar and Kulturas icons, like sprays, as well as StarCraft. And if you've purchased the digital deluxe copy of Battle for Azeroth but want to upgrade to Collector's Edition, you will be credited the cost of the digital copy in Blizzard Balance, which is a big improvement because before you had to like essentially buy 2 copies of the games and then give a key to somebody else. So that is a pretty big quality of life improvement.
And I think the refund goes straight into your Battle.net balance. And some people might be like, oh, but like I can't use that money for real stuff. Well, you can still use that for game time or whatever in the future. So it's definitely still very usable, and it's a huge improvement from before.
Even, I don't know, BlizzCon virtual ticket, that seems to work as well, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Or any Blizzard game in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty useful.
So now we have a really difficult thing to cover in the show, which is Warbringers Sylvanas, because we got the Warbringers Sylvanas first. We saw the cinematic and we're like, what's going on? And then the events in the novellas helped to make a little more sense. So why don't we discuss War of the Thorns Part 2 and reactions to Warbringers, because that's what people saw first, and then we can get into more specific points that are in the novellas. I don't think these are free yet online, so maybe
I haven't read it. So
on these. Yeah.
This means that Perk will luckily be able to let us know exactly what is going on so that we can have some more insight. Oh, is he okay?
he's fine.
It looked like his tail just hit your face.
Yeah, so he's fine. I'm not. Yeah.
He's fine. I'm not. Like smiling, Perk happy.
Yep.
Aww. But yeah, so I'm not sure how we should start. Should we start with playing the Warbringers clip?
So why don't we just give a background leading up to it, then we can play Warbringers. So War of the Thorns Part 2 went live. It's been live on Tuesday, and in it we saw the conclusion of the battle, which was more the Horde making a breakthrough through a secret passageway into Darkshore, and then it was very easy for them to launch an attack on Teldrassil. And along the way, we see that Malfurion was fighting Sylvanas. Sourfang dishonorably struck Malfurion, but then Tyrande was able to rescue him, and he decides to end up sparing Malfurion. So when people go to the shore thinking that they're going to be either rescuing the Alliance citizens or having a takeover of Teldrassil, they are instead greeted by the cinematic, which ends in the tree burning.
So let me play it out for you guys.
Yep.
Secure the beach. Prepare to invade the tree.
Why? Why? You've already won. Only innocents remain in the tree.
This is war.
No. This is hatred. Rage. Windrunner. You were defender of your people. Do you not remember?
I remember. A fool. Take her! Run! Understand. Ah, don't grieve. You'll soon join your loved ones.
I grieve for you. You've made life your enemy. And that is a war you'll never win. You can kill us, but you cannot kill hope.
Can't I? Burn it. Burn it!
So, yeah, wow.
Where do we start?
So, I have a personal opinion about this, but I'll go with the more neutral approach first, which is just getting out there the parallels between Dalaran and then Ranger General Sylvanas, and how now Sylvanas is going more the path of Arthas. You know, you can just see that even in in how they're dressed, and you learn more in the novellas that Delaran is like very idealistic and is trying to, like, she's doing very good at annoying Sylvanas and slowing down her march, similar to how Arthas denied Sylvanas a quick death because she was vexing him in the same way. And there is some, sadness that, like, Sylvanas has now turned into the thing she used to hate. But yeah, moving into the opinion, I think it would be weird if, like, the Gul'dan cinematic just tacked on Varian's death at the end. So I kind of feel that this horrible emotional moment for the Night Elves sort of got taken away from the Night Elves and used as some, plot device or interesting detail for the story of Sylvanas. And to me, that seems kind of strange.
Oh, you mean like the burning of the tree didn't necessarily have to be a part of the Warbringer for Sylvanas.
Like, I feel like there should have been Warbringer Sylvanas and then something for the burning of the tree that gave more weight to the horrible situation and the victims. Like, it would be weird if you had Gul'dan's backstory and then, like, you flash back and it's like, and now I'm killing Varian. Varian, it was, like, really sad and rough, but Varian still had his moment of glory where the camera, like, saw him on the ship and, fighting the Fel Reaver and the Alliance Mourning, and, like, Vol'jin has the funeral pyre. So there's some sense of, identifying with the victim in that case, but this was very much just like, oh, it's like Sylvanas did this to the tree, and I just feel it should have been two separate things, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like the Warbringer clip also doesn't really give us more insight into Sylvanas. I mean, it gives a quick recap of what happened with Arthas and her, but it doesn't really give us, like, an understanding for her. I think for a lot of people, what it did was the opposite, because the Warbringer shows very shortly a little scene where she gets provoked by Delaran and therefore makes a very, very almost impulsive decision. And that's all we get. So I feel like even people who would be supporting Sylvanas might be disappointed because it's like, you didn't want her to do that, maybe. I don't know. I guess that could be, like, different opinions as well. But I think I would have preferred a Warbringer Sylvanas that only goes into what is going on in her mind so that we can get in and see and understand what is going on. Not necessarily show her these not necessarily show us these controversial decisions, but rather just go into her history and give us a little insight into what is going on in her head and what kind of path that she might take later on. Kind of like, I guess in a way with Jaina, like, there was no specific action that she made that was standing out in any way. The whole clip was about her and coming to an understanding with herself and her father. And I think we could have had something similar with Sylvanas as well that doesn't necessarily include this part. And I think that what you said as well makes a very good point too, because it's a very, very sad moment for the Night Elves. So maybe they should have had their own video to cover that in one way or another.
And there's a lot of parts of Sylvanas' lore which are not very apparent to players. For example, in a short story after the end of Icecrown Citadel, she feels this emptiness after Arthas dies, like, her point to existing is now over, and she tries to kill herself by jumping off of Icecrown, and she's successful, but because she's this undead, she's now in this, like, eternal torture and damnation, and then the Valkyrs say, hey, we'll follow you, like, but let's, we'll break from the Lich King, you have to go back to your weird undeath. And
I would have liked to see something like that.
I would have liked to have seen that. Like, we first see her meeting Arthas and being turned into the Banshee, and then it closes with, the defeat of Arthas, and she just has this emptiness and, like, this sense of that, I can't even kill myself because I'll just be in this sort of hell, so I must survive so I don't get thrown into an even worse torture.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to have seen more of that. And then there's also just the way the storyline was presented. We didn't learn a lot of details that we will learn in the novellas, and it just seemed very cartoonishly evil. Like, she spontaneously decides to burn the tree and, like, makes Delaran look at the burning tree, and we don't really have much sense of what goes on before that, she just seems to be evil, and other characters come across in strange, disappointing ways. For example, we'll get into it, like Saurfang is protesting the burning of the tree, but we don't get any sense of that in the cinematic.
Not
Earlier
at all.
quest line, like Tyrande has a very important role in Stormwind, how she's trying to stay there to be uncaptured, to be a leader for the refugees, but in the quest line, it's just like, where's Tyrande? Oh,
Yep.
look, she's running up to Malfurion after he's dead. Like, what is she doing? So it just seemed very, no one came across in a good light. I mean, no one is back to Sylvanas, but everyone sort of came across a little like, why aren't the Night Elves fighting harder? Like, why isn't Saurfang doing more? Like, my Horde character is uncomfortable with this. And I don't know if that was the point. I don't know if you're meant to be questioning the decisions of war and saying, like, this is really strange. Like, was I lied to? Like, you know, it's chaotic. Like, I don't want to go along with this war chief. Or like, maybe I'm not a good person. Maybe I wanted this war and, oh no, things are burning. Like, why is my character so into war when it caused this horrible thing? So I don't know if it's deliberately that way, but we'll get to it in a second. But I definitely feel that some of the details from this should have been in game, because it's really difficult to get people to read stuff across mediums. Like, I know Blizzard's trying to do a really good job, and more people are caring about the story now than before, but there's just, even if they reach more people than before, there are just people that are going to see this cinematic that has millions of views and go, Sylvanas burned the tree, OMG. Yep. And she made someone that was already, it looks that in this cinematic that someone she already, you know, mortally wounded, she got annoyed by that night elf. So it's like, how petty can you be?
Yeah, because that scene especially, because you can see her first smiling because she can see Delaran crying, and she, when she comes back with the line of, well, I grieve for you, that smile suddenly turns into a, I don't know, like an anger, like a very angry face, and like looking around, needing to do something, you know? And then Delaran mentions hope, and then she's like, wait, okay, I think I know how to destroy it. And then she orders them to burn it. And it's very, it's as if she wasn't really planning to do that, but that those words affected her so much emotionally that she made an emotional decision. That's how it seemed like from the clip itself.
Right. And it just, she also doesn't understand hope. Maybe that's a feature of the character, but it's like, you know, the Night Elves thought they were going to lose all along. Delaran's worried that she's going to invade the tree and like kill the civilians. So like, they knew stuff was already bad and they were still hoping. But Sylvanas is like cartoonishly evil, and she's all like, oh, well, like if I do this thing, then like everyone will lose hope. And it's like, but that's not, you know, how it works. Like, you know, in the other wars, you know, when the Stormwind King, you know, was killed, that just rallied the alliance, you know, to then, you know, crush the Horde, was the, you know, the second or third war. So it just seems to be a very strange way of thinking how hope works, and kind of foolish, because if she's looking at past military strategies and battles, when you try to crush something iconic, the people rally around that more because they're so angry and protective of their culture. So it just seems it doesn't seem like well thought out.
Mm-hmm. So did we, because I was very questioning, I guess, or wondering of Saurfang and why he didn't say anything. Like, does he consider that honorable to kill all those civilians and burn everything?
I think we should, let's move into the novella, because
I was gonna say that, because I know you've read it.
Yeah.
Yes, please tell us some more. What is going on?
Okay. So
internet, please.
We actually
this is important.
Okay, is it back?
Yes, it's back.
Okay.
Good boy, internet. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we actually get the real motivations why Sylvanas wants to go to war. We get this really short clip in the game, which isn't really true. So maybe she's lying to us. She's worried about the past actions of the Alliance, including Gen and Stormheim, and she believes that any peace will be short-lived, and she feels that the Alliance have grudges, some real, some not, you know, from the Horde sacking of Stormwind, and other things, and she feels that the Horde will always be upset at the Alliance, like the Darkspear Trolls for, you know, being removed from their homeland, and she doesn't think that any peace will be short-lived. All peace will be short-lived. Her goal is to eventually wipe out the Alliance, and she believes that she can strike Darnassus first while the Alliance are tricked into going to Silithus and don't really have a navy. And if they capture Darnassus, then the Alliance, hopefully, will start bickering, like, oh, should we attack Undercity? We might totally lose Teldrassil. Oh, you know, should we go over, you know, should we try to get Gilneas back? Oh, why are you getting Gilneas before Darnassus? And she hopes they'll just go into bickering and not do anything, and you know, and they can then start taking over more and more fractured kingdoms. But it's interesting because in the novella, so we learn that, and it makes more sense than just like, oh, we need Azerite and the Night Elves are evil. So even though I don't agree with it and there's holes in it, it's more logical. But what's interesting, now I'm not saying this is right or wrong, is that she's totally wrong, going back to how she doesn't understand hope. There's a line in the book where Anduin figures out Sylvanas' plan in his head, and Gen's like, well, this is crazy because, like, the Night Elves help my people. He's like, I'm not going to bicker. Like, I fully support you guys supporting the Night Elves, and, you know, they were, you know, so...
the internet.
Jeez. So...
All right. Try now?
Test.
Yes, sounds good.
So we're talking about Gen Greymane, and Sylvanas is thinking that Gen will be opposed to any help for Darnassus over Gilneas, and she's totally wrong because Gen is talking about the loyalty and the kindness that the Night Elves showed his people. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. Like, she's just 100% wrong. And there's also flaws in her plan, like, so what if the Horde takes over everything and then, like, the Orcs start fighting with the Tauren or, like, the Blood or the Nightborn? It doesn't seem really thought out. But it's more plausible than, oh, the Night Elves might do something with Azerite we should work on. You know, we should try to take them out. We also learn more details on the Night Elf resistance. I think in game, they seem kind of wimpy or just sort of scattered, like the Horde kind of rolls over them. But in the novella, they know as soon as it starts that they can't win the war because they're outnumbered like 10-1. And they decide to focus on buying time to evacuate the citizens and hoping for a miracle. So that means that they're doing lots of little skirmishes here and there to distract the Horde. Like, they set fire to a river so the Horde can't get over it. They try to, you know, dress up dead. They try to make it seem like there's been an ambush somewhere, and so the Horde feels comfortable, and then they try to attack the Horde. They have spies dressing up as Forsaken to lure them out. And it's a lot more badass than what we get in game. Yeah. And just showing also that, like, the Night Elves actually did a pretty good job considering they were totally unprepared, and because the Navy is weakened after Legion, like, Stormwind just couldn't send, you know, this whole army to help them instantly. We also know Delaran a lot better in the it's like very like we also met Delaran in the novel, and how she was sort of inexperienced, but how she was forced into a role of power, and she enacts several successful defenses. And there's this interesting parallel between her and Malfurion and Sylvanas to the Sylvanas and Arthas story, where Malfurion and Delaran are effective at kind of annoying Sylvanas. They keep clashing with her. They're not successful, but they keep slowing her down, and she's just angry with them, and she's, like, super obsessed with, like, killing Malfurion. And, you know, Sylvanas was the one that put the final arrow in Delaran, and it's just, she's just obsessed with taking them down. Yeah. And, you know, Sylvanas, her point of view is always like, oh, you know, I'm winning, like, these Night Elves don't stand a chance, you know, like, they're winning. And it's like, you know, like, she's like, oh, their hope will be crushed when they realize they'll lose. And it's like, well, they always knew they were losing. So again, she's totally misunderstood the Night Elves. And I'm not saying this is flaw of the book. I'm saying that it's just really interesting for her character how, you know, Sylvanas is all clever and calculating, but she does not understand how, you know, people
like she
that
made
are
the wrong predictions of the Alliance people.
Yeah. We also learn more. This I think should have been in the in game. We learn why Tyrande is not in the quest line.
Yeah. A lot of people are asking actually, like, where is Tyrande?
So she went to Stormwind to plan the counterattack on Silithus because the Horde tried to have this elaborate front that they were going to attack Silithus. So she was there planning a counterattack, and then when word happens that, you know, the Horde could be capturing the tree, she decides to stay in Stormwind to remain an uncaptured leader for her people and to continue to boost the morale of the refugees coming from Darnassus and to aid the evacuation. So, she's a pretty major role. She's advising Anduin on strategy. She does come through the portal to give a rallying speech in Darnassus, which is missing from the in-game questline. And then she prays to Elune to show her where Malfurion is, and it's implied that the prayer could have frozen Saurfang in place, because with the prayer, a moonbeam shines down onto where Malfurion's body is. So she plays a much larger role than we get in that questline.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the point. Maybe you're meant to think like, I'm a soldier. Like, where's this leader? Like, I'm so disillusioned because like you wouldn't know everything as a foot soldier going on. You would just be like, I don't see this faction leader. It's disappointing. But I think there should have been something because, perceptions matter. Like maybe you come back after the quest line and you see like, I don't know, Tyrande has a line about what she was doing during the war, about like how it pained her that she could not do things with her people, but she had to do this other thing for those who survived. I think that could have been helpful. So the next thing, it's still spontaneous why Sylvanas burns the tree, but it's set up a little differently. I still don't totally buy this, so she's very upset. She learns that Sylvanas did not kill Malfurion. We do not get a sense of that in-game. We get that in the book.
Who learns this? Delaran?
Sylvanas learns that Saurfang did not kill Malfurion.
Okay.
So that's a detail missing from the cinematic.
So she's already upset because of that.
Yeah. So she's really upset by that, and she was thinking of a new way to destroy morale among the Night Elves. So when Delaran mentions hope, it's like, oh, I can do this to them instead. But that's still interesting because, it's just weird how Sylvanas is thinking like, oh, if I do this one thing, they'll be upset. But it's like Delaran went into fighting in the novella. We learned that with the Last Stand, she knew she was going to die, but she was just fighting to slow down Sylvanas. And when she parts with Malfurion, she thinks that he might be going off to die as well. So it's like she already was, by Sylvanas' logic of like, oh, like this event is worth like -1 point of hope. This event is worth like -5 points of hope. Like it would have been pretty low by Sylvanas' standard, but that had not broken Delaran. And the most interesting part, I think, is Saurfang. So I think he is the one that is the most morally gray out of all this, because he is the one that comes up with the strategy for the war. And a good war is probably referencing his thoughts like, hey, this is going so well. And he talks in parts about how he's almost enjoying the battle. And he undergoes this transformation where he starts questioning his honor and feeling guilt for his actions in past wars. And the honor part's really interesting because he's reviewing all the battles he fought, and, his persona is like, oh, I'm the badass warrior, I always win, I'm awesome with this axe. And he starts being like, no, like, I was killing people in Stormwind. Like, the screams of Darnassus are the same as the screams of other Alliance people I've killed. He's like, he starts thinking he's like this, like, really horrible person that has actually not acted honorably.
Wait, so when were these thoughts of his? At what point? Is it before or after the burning?
During the burning. So
during the burning.
Final chapter. So we learned. So first important point is so Saurfang first decides to spare Malfurion, and he's disgusted with himself for being dishonorable. And what triggers that is Sylvanas going, this is your victory. You have earned this honor. Take a moment if you'd like, and then take his head. And then Saurfang felt numb. You have earned this honor. He looked down on Malfurion. I truly am sorry. So that's what gets him turning like, this is not honorable what I did. I backstabbed someone in a duel. Yeah. And then he feels a lot better when he spares Malfurion. Then when Sylvanas gives the cue to burn Teldrassil, he starts screaming and telling everyone to stop firing.
Oh, really?
Which which would have been really important to see in the cinematic.
Yeah, because I was wondering, I was like, why is he just standing there? And like, I was trying to look at his face, and like, I can't even tell from the face what his expression is.
Yeah, so at first, they said when she first gives the command, it's like, he's paralyzed, he's whispering no, he's in shock, and then it's like, when the second volley launches, that broke the shock that had paralyzed him.
All right,
no,
so what we saw was the shock then, probably.
Right, but it would have been useful to be like, okay, well, 2 seconds later, he was screaming to tell people to stop firing.
Which I guess maybe they didn't, because the Warbringers is meant to be, you know, about Sylvanas at the center, not so much what other people's reactions. But then that again brings us back to maybe the burning shouldn't have been in that clip in the first place. Like, yeah.
So,
okay.
And what's also interesting is that it says that he
and yes, for people wondering, this is only available at the moment for those people who have the physical. Actually, is it available online too?
They said it would be, but I don't think it is yet. And I think this should have been released on Tuesday.
Okay.
Like, this is pretty important.
So you'll probably get access online as well, but for now it's only the people with the physical edition of it.
Yeah.
And I don't have it either, so I'm also sitting here like with you guys, like asking Perk, like, so what's happening? Tell us more. All right.
So I think the ending of Warbringers is misleading when I'm reading this book, because it's going, Sourfang did not move for hours, not until the screams faded and the flames had burned themselves down to embers. Sourfang made himself watch the flames consume city and citizens alike. He would not dishonor himself further by turning away. But in Warbringers, because they want that symbolism of, like, you know, Sylvanas being in the center, you know, being torn down by Arthas, you know, Sylvanas standing by herself with her actions, if we just saw the cinematic, we'd go, oh, I guess Sourfang, like, peaced out. But he didn't. He stood there longer than anyone else watching this, as he reflected on how he has actually been, like, a really, you know, terrible, you know, orc. Because he's going, this was the most interesting part. He's going, the screams continued. They reminded him of Shatrith. He had loved the sound then. Smoke filled the air, reminding him of Stormwind, of racing through the streets as buildings burned all around him, finding cowering humans and butchering them as they begged for their lives. He had loved the slaughter then, too. And he had loved this war, too, hadn't he? Sourfang would remember this moment in his dreams forever. He would relive this shame and all the new ones to come over and over again. So he's really, you know, he's like questioning his entire existence if he's always been this brilliant military commander, and now he's realizing the horrors he has caused. And he, you know, he can't, at one point he's like, he's thinking about killing Sylvanas, and then she's like, she blames it on him, and then he starts thinking, he's like, oh wow, like I've killed so many people, like what, you know, this is my existence. And something very interesting is that earlier in the novella, from Sylvanas' point of view, she's thinking about Sourfang, and she says, honor was all Sourfang had left, honor and the Horde. She did not know what he would do if either were taken from him. He would become my enemy, a terrible one. So at the end of this, at the end of this novella, it's like he's kind of lost or rethinking his sense of honor.
Exactly.
And we learn in Lordaeron that, you know, he abandoned Sylvanas and he's captured by the Alliance. And then in the Horde opening story, he chooses to stay in the cell instead of being rescued and says, like, I will not serve her Horde. So it's like, oh my God, he's like lost his sense of the Horde and honor. So is he going to be this real threat to Sylvanas now in a future Battle for Azeroth patch? So like maybe when Malfurion gets healed back up, him and Sourfang are gonna, I don't know, team up and do something.
Yeah.
So
that's
I'm really
interesting. I wish we'd see more of this in the game.
Yeah, like I'm sad that they took Sylvanas down what I think is a cartoonish route. But if I go, okay, well, if I'm making peace with that, and then it's like, well, who's the morally gray? Sourfang's story is really interesting and exciting to me.
Yeah, I feel like I can, and I think a lot of Horde who don't agree with Sylvanas' actions would also feel okay if Sourfang comes up and becomes a very important figure in this, in this specific situation where he goes against Sylvanas. I think that could actually make the story a lot more interesting, because as it is now, there's a lot of Horde who feel disappointed because they don't want to always be the quotation mark bad guys, you know?
Right. I mean, like, the Horde destroyed Theramore. You know, we had, like, Gilneas with the Blight, and it's just like, okay, can we... You know, it's just, like, not an interesting story if it's like, oh, well, the Horde are the bad guys, so now the Alliance can do more minor atrocities, and everything's okay because the Horde decided to do this one really horrible thing. But that goes into my next point, which is Sylvanas acting for the Horde? Because there are a few lines here and there talking about how she has a different purpose. So she's going, she's thinking about how Malfurion was spared, and she goes, Elune had intervened. Perhaps she had even stayed Sarafang's killing blow. And she wouldn't be the only force beyond the Alliance to oppose Sylvanas' true objective. Sylvanas' anger grew cold. She had known this would happen. It had simply come sooner than expected. That was all. So it's like, what is her true objective that, you know, forces beyond the Alliance would not agree with, or forces beyond Elune? So I think that Delaran talking about Sylvanas being the enemy of life, like, I think that shocks Sylvanas, because maybe Sylvanas is all about death. You know, the Void hates Sylvanas in Three Sisters with Ilaria because, you know, the Void is the enemy of death. You know, she you know, at Three Sisters, she's like, they'll all serve me. I am death. Sylvanas was concerned about, you know, immortality for her people in Legion. So you sort of have to wonder if the Void doesn't like how Sylvanas is trying to push this agenda of death onto everything. And you've got, because, you know, Sylvanas, like, she's obsessed with Malfurion because, you know, he's such a figure of life.
Yeah. And so was the tree.
Right. So you have to wonder, like, is this not Alliance versus Horde, but is this going to turn into life versus death or undeath in a future patch? Because I know Battle for Azeroth is all about, like, faction conflict, but it's like, I don't think a lot of the Horde are really excited about Sylvanas right now, and are just agreeing with her.
Because that's the thing as well. I think a lot of the Horde is also a little bit split here. I think there are some people who are very happy about, you know, having Sylvanas, you know, the really badass war chief, and then there's some who are like, no, this is boring. I don't want my faction to always be the bad guys.
Right. And there are some stories that don't totally make sense, like a Tauren, oh, in the Order Halls, Tauren Druids working with Malfurion. Okay, now we're killing Malfurion. Or like, oh, you know, the Night Elves, they're kind of snobby, they weren't nice to us, but they freed Suramar, so we'll just burn down their tree as the Nightborn. Like, it's just, I feel like the faction stuff is seeming a little forced at points, and there are also in-game systems issues with it, such as
internet warning,
raid and PvP balancing.
All right, now you're back.
Okay, so there is, like, Alliance versus Horde, PvP and raid balancing issues. If someone plays one faction, they don't have access to, like, half the city and artwork and questing experiences. So I almost wonder, since, you know, anything goes now with the tree burning, if we'll see a revamping of the factions, or maybe we'll unite, similar to how it was hinted at in Before the Storm, that the only way we could survive was to not be fighting each other with Azerite. Maybe we'll actually be united against the Old God or the Death Threat, and then a new conflict will arise with, like, I don't know, like, life versus undeath. I don't know. Choose that as your side for PvP. But it's just very interesting that she has an ulterior motive, and there are other places in the Horde book where Saurfang is like, okay, well, your plan sounds good, but I think, you know, it seems like there's something more to it. Like, he just does not trust her. And then even when she's thinking about Saurfang being her enemy, or like speculating that he could be, she even says, perhaps he would find a glorious death on the battlefield before he even had to face a choice that would destroy him. Or maybe the Old Orc will surprise me. Maybe he will face the world as it is and choose to fight onward at my side. If he doesn't, well, that can wait. So it's like, Is she using Saurfang to capture land, but then her long-term plan is to kill everyone, like regardless of faction, and just have everything be undeath? So it's just very interesting what's going on with her.
It also brings some other. Yeah, sorry. Continue.
So no, I've been talking a lot. Go ahead.
I was just gonna mention how going back to Vol'jin, and I think because if I remember correctly, he was saying that he could see clearly now, and that Sylvanas needs to be the war chief because of some kind of vision. Yeah. And the question is, what did he see?
Yeah, I mean, so with the Zandalar storyline, I think we'll be talking about Vol'jin again before long. But I have to wonder, there's a greater purpose. Like, if there's something with the Void or the Old Gods, like the Void hates undead. Chronicles Volume 3 was talking about how the Old Gods were sending the Naga to, to help Illidan, because Illidan could, weaken Arthas. Like the Void does not like the undead because they are out of the domain of their control. So it's almost like, does Vol'jin have a crazy vision that we need Sylvanas and undead to somehow be immune to crazy Void stuff that's going to happen? But it's like, I don't know, she's pretty bad on her own. She's burning things. This does not seem helpful, because we also learned that the Old Gods like when the Alliance and Horde hate each other. We've learned that in Chronicles they're talking about how their agents are trying to create confusion because they know when the Alliance and Horde work together, they're unstoppable. But if they're fighting, then they're very weak. So it's like, are the Void Lords, I don't know, are they hoping that we just keep fighting with each other? But then like, oh wait, no, it's just very weird, because you could see maybe they hate Sylvanas, maybe they like her actions. It's very confusing. But right now she just looks pretty evil, and it seems that her motivations could be undeath, but not in a heroic sense. Not like, oh, everyone needs to be undead to fight the Void. It's just like, they need to be undead, Yeah. So but I'm really glad I got this novella, even though, like I said, the Alliance part was really difficult to read. One note I didn't put in the show notes was that at the start of every chapter, let me try to find it. So it's called Elegy, and if you can see it, the verses at the top. Yeah. So every chapter has some of the verses, and then at the end of the novella, the priestesses that stay behind to ease the suffering of those that can't escape, they sing a line, and then Tyrande sings a line to the final baby that escapes with Mia Greymane. And if they turned those lyrics into a song that the refugees would be, singing as dialogue, and maybe turned into a music, a song that could be the soundtrack for a cinematic similar to Jaina, like that would be amazing, and that would feel like the proper weight given to what happened to the Night Elves, as opposed to like, oh look, Arthas destroyed Sylvanas' homeland, so look, Sylvanas is destroying someone else's. Like, I just feel that something paying more respect to a culture being wiped out, like if we got, even Ysera, she's raised into the sky, and her hymn is playing as she's being raised up. Like, everyone has their moment of realizing what made them special, even if the cinematic is very sad about what happened to them. With the Night Elves, like, it was just like Sylvanas and like the war drums and like the Horde colors, and it just was, you just like, the Night Elves were sort of like an afterthought. It felt like this could be anyone being burned or destroyed.
Yeah, no, I think they definitely need their own little, either like a cinematic or some kind of special moment in the game where they can like grief, I guess, properly.
Yeah. So to sum it up, my thoughts on what should have been included from the novella in the game are some sort of hesitation, or some showing that Saurfang was upset by all this. Whether
because I was very confused about that. Yeah,
like maybe he stands at the beach on the end and there's a dialogue option and he's like, no, I cannot leave yet, like I must atone for my sins. Like, just something to show that, because I feel a lot of Horde are like, I'm just sort of going along with this, and I'm really bothered by what's going on. I mean, maybe that's good. Maybe we're meant to start thinking about why the factions maybe, don't totally make sense, but I just feel that Sourfang plays such a major role, and we should understand his motivations a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because when I saw the cinematic and I tried to look at it, and it's kind of like a just cold face. Like, you can't really read what is going on in his head. Like, is he okay with this? Is he afraid to say no to Sylvanas? Like, well, what is going on?
Right. I think we should have gotten a little more of a sense that the Night Elves knew they couldn't win, but were still fighting, because they looked kind of wimpy with the quest line. But in this novella, you keep learning about, like, all these very strategic defenses they're doing with, handfuls of very young soldiers. And, we basically have this narrative that, like, oh, look, the Night Elves think they're going to win, and Sylvanas keeps beating them down. But it's like, no, the Night Elves knew they were not going to win, and they realized that they needed to save their people, even if their lands would be lost in whatever form.
Yeah.
Tyrande, we need to know what she's up to, because she looked like pretty disappointing.
Yeah. Just a few more lines at least added in the quest or anything.
Yeah. And I think it was really important to have the real full motivations for the war. And this was something I discussed in the collaboration with Novel, is that, so when we data mined the broadcast text, we put this out there and everyone was like, and some people at Blizzard were saying that, it's data mining, it's not yet final, things would change. And then a few weeks later, the dialogue did change. But the confusing thing is that original dialogue is the reason the reason it's a book. It wasn't some off the wall theory. So you have to wonder why it had changed. Like, it was super poetic too. It was like the first part, which was missing, was something like where did it go? Oh, wrong faction.
Wrong side.
Yeah, it was her voice softened, but only slightly. If life had any mercy at all, you and I would exist in peace for the rest of our days. We have both seen enough of war, but neither of us have seen the last of it. We only know that Azerite will create a new generation of warfare. What will war look like in 20 years, in 100? And yeah, that was then it was the Horde's children and their children's children will curse our memories as they burn. Like, that was Sylvanas talking about her plan to Sourfang, talking about this larger issue with peace and how she knows that it will not be popular with the Horde, and almost how she wishes something else could be done, and all that is not in game.
Yeah.
And so I feel like some of this should have been in game, except, I mean, maybe you're meant to feel like you don't know what's going on. Like, you're this big hotshot in Legion, you've got your artifact, and, like, now you've lost your artifact, and the faction leaders are doing some really sinister things, so you don't even know about it. But just a sense that you don't know what's going on would be good, because a lot of people are not going to read this book. Like,
Most people don't.
Based on analytics, when people read something, even on Wowhead, they stop reading after a certain point. So they're not going to get this book and learn something. They're not going to get halfway through this book. Is it better?
Yeah. I was just going to say, Perk is learning. She just takes a pause and then continues speaking. She knows the timing.
So, I mean, based on how people, even if they read, they stop reading halfway through. Like, there's a lot of details people are not going to read. They're going to get distracted and, like, I don't know, actually play or do something else. So that was all really, that's basically what's happening in the novella. And I think that there's still some things that I think are missing. For example, it's really powerful that it ends with Sourfang standing on the shore, but you don't really get a sense of, there's a little clip of Bane Bloodhoofs being like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't approve of this. But you don't really get a sense of the other faction leaders. It's basically like Orc soldiers, Sourfang, the Thanos, Sylvanas. Well, with the Alliance, you have more races, and, like, you learn how, like, they're all trying to work together and take care of the refugees. And it just really shows that even if Sylvanas is this brilliant military leader, she doesn't really understand the people she is ruling, and doesn't understand why her subjects are loyal, what motivates them. And, it just totally backfires with the Alliance, how, like, everything is very sad, but it's, like, at the end, Sylvanas is like, oh, like, I must do something else to break their spirits. Oh, I have a solution, the tree. And the Alliance is just like, we don't understand why you're burning this. Like, this has united us more in our grief. Like, just totally, like, they're like, it made no strategic sense for Sylvanas. Meanwhile, Sylvanas is like, oh, this makes perfect sense because, like, now I've dampened their spirits by this amount. But to the Alliance, they're just like, there was no purpose to this. Like, we're united.
Yeah. And going back to what you mentioned before, you said that Sylvanas' predictions were wrong about the bickering that she was expecting the Alliance to have to go through if she decides to invade and take over Darnassus. I think that kind of split, or that kind of division that she was expecting between the leaders is a division that she herself feels with the Horde leaders, probably.
I think she's, that's a great point. She's like, she projects a ton. So she's like, I felt this way when Arthas killed me and my homeland was lost, so, you will react the same way if I do this to your thing. Or it's like, to
the point of it becoming kind of selfish.
It's like, I'm worried the Horde leaders hate me and that, they would be splintered, so the Alliance must feel the same way. Maybe that's because, like, in Undeath, like, you don't feel things the same way, so you just sort of approach it very, like, detached, or like you can't really empathize, but that's a very good point, how I think a lot of her insecurities are reflected on this, and while she may be a brilliant leader, she is underestimating how people actually react to things.
And that's why she's not afraid to have a sort of spontaneous decision to completely burn the tree, even though she, if she thinks about it, she may have realized, like, hey, actually Starfang won't be happy with this. Maybe we should, sit down and talk about it or something. But it's like, she doesn't care at all. It's like, no, I mean, I've made a decision. That's it. That's all that matters.
One thing I wanted to talk about that, just before we move on to the next thing, is that what I thought was really effective in the quest line, it was super sad. And, like, reading it in the book was even worse. But just when you go to rescue the final refugees from Teldrassil.
Oh, wow.
And then you just can't rescue them all.
Yep.
And first you're like, oh, I'm this hero, I'll just, like, where's my action button to, like, mass rescue 100 people at once? And that just is not there. And then you realize, like, you can't win.
It was really sad. I was so confused. I was like, wait, I can't help everybody? Why does it give me a specific number? 982, like, please. I think I managed to help like 98 or something, and I was like, it's impossible.
Right, but now that wasn't just Darnassus, like the very starting zone, like Dolinar, like those people just did not have a chance.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know some people are like, oh, but like we're all players, like most of us were helping together. It's like, no, like in the novella, like you might be helping because you're this hero of the Order Hall campaign, but there's not an army of people helping the Night Elves. And we also learn things like, it's very interesting to hear portal magic in this novel because the flames were so bad that all of a sudden the flames started and smoke started coming into Stormwind and being toxic. So they had to shut the portal or else Stormwind would be affected by the fire.
Yeah.
And the only reason that Mia Greymane was saved was that Gan had to punch Anduin out of the way to go through the portal because he's like, I don't care. He's like, I need to find Mia. And that's basically like Anduin had to make a decision and was almost deciding to, he's like, I don't see any refugees coming out. Like, we have to close this because, this room on Stormwind is now on fire. And he's like, no, I need to go find my wife. Yeah. And just saying goodbye to the priestesses, how they decide to stay there. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh my God. I can't wait to read all that too, because I felt it with the quest itself. I was like, what's going on? What do you mean? Why are you giving me a quest I cannot complete?
Like,
it was such a powerless feeling.
They just start singing, and it's talking about how the fire is relentless, and that iconic statue is like beheaded, and like the ground is all bloody, and how the Loon...
Oh, internet. All right.
So it's talking about how everything is so horrific, but the priestesses are praying to Elune, and Elune grants them mercy, and they're just they don't feel any pain as they die. And it's talking about how there's a mother with a child, and to me that's paralleling the two moons of Elune, the lady and the child. And it makes you also wonder, there's a lot of discussion in the Alliance section, like, has Elune abandoned us? Why is this happening? And she appears at the very end in places where Sylvanas isn't. So you have to wonder, like, is Elune's power dampened because, like, Elune and Sylvanas are, like, you know, Sylvanas is like the foil to Elune. Like, Sylvanas is about death and is dampening Elune's magic, but when she leaves, then Elune can at least, you know, ease the suffering of the Night Elves, or, you know, after Sylvanas walks away from Malfurion, then Tyrande can find Malfurion. So you have to wonder if, like, maybe Sylvanas has this dark energy that is affecting Elune's ability to save her people when Sylvanas is nearby. But yeah, I have lots of thoughts on this. If people want to send sass questions, we can answer them. I can read more segments at the end of this. But we should also talk about some Battle for Azeroth content release stuff. If you want to learn more about my thoughts, Novel, who has also sent the Collector's Edition, we did a collaboration where we talked about the Ingham quest, and then we did like a big analysis back and forth, and it's up on the front page of Wowhead. You can read that whole thing there.
And if you have a question that you want to ask Perk or me, Perk may know more about what is actually written in the book because I haven't read it. Feel free to just tag Sass with any question you have, and he will take care of it for you. But yeah, so I feel so heavy now, like drowned in, like,
I know,
in all the feelings. But yeah, let's move on to some more of the BfA stuff. So something interesting is that there's I don't know if all of these dates were newly mentioned or newly released, but we have some dates for you guys to keep track of in your calendar if you're interested in these things. The requirements that are necessary to unlock the Dark Iron Dwarfs and the Magar Orcs. Did I say Dark Iron Orcs? Dark Iron Dwarfs and Magar Orcs unlock on August 14th. So on launch day, you can start working towards those factions straight away. I believe for Dark Iron Dwarf, it's 7th Legion.
Yeah.
And for the Magar Orc, it's the Honor Bound. So
there's also a long quest you have to do as well. Not like Insurrection, but it's a fairly long, quest lights. So you'll be earning rep with those factions along the way, and we'll have guides to the war campaigns up very soon.
Awesome. And on September 4th, which is about 3 weeks after-ish, is the start of the Mythic Plus season, the PvP season, and also the Old Year on normal mode. And then a week after that, September 11th, is when Mythic unlocks together with LFR Wing 1. And I think after that, usually what happens is that week 2 and 3 come 1 week at a time. Yeah.
So we knew about Uldir because Blizzard just put that in-game calendar, but it's just, good to get confirmation officially on that sort of thing. And the Magar Orcs and Dark Iron Dwarves, I feel people know they're coming, but there's been so much focus on, like, the islands or, like, the Zandalar quest and Kulturas quest, but we're going to have some interesting lore there when we see the Magar Orcs facing against, Yrel and going back to Draenor. So that's going to be an interesting story, like a few weeks into Battle for Azeroth.
And something else, which I don't think is in the notes, but I just realized now, which could be interesting. So for next reset, so Tuesday for NA and Wednesday for EU, there's new content as well. So we already have the Teldrassil, the War of the Thorns, Part 1 and Part 2, which, by the way, Part 2, at the end of Part 2, you get to unlock a mount. And this mount is not available once the expansion hits. So,
it's super weird you get the Horde one as well. It's just like, oh, you burned a city, here's, like, an undercity bat.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's maybe to, like, because it's limited with time. So what if someone wanted it really bad on the other side? So they would have to level a new character to max level and all that stuff. So I think that was more of a convenience decision by Blizzard than making sense. But yeah, it is funny. It's like, if you're the Horde, you burn Teldrassil, and then you get one of the hippogriffs. Like, it's kind of funny if you think about it that way, but this is the case. So if you do want to get those mounts, you gotta make sure that you finish off those pre-patch quests before they are gone. And so for this coming maintenance, or the coming week, what will become available is the scenario or quest line for Battle for Lordaeron. Perk, do you have more info on exactly what it is?
So you can only access this if you have pre-purchased Battle for Azeroth.
Right.
This isn't
so
like
not everyone has
Silver,
access.
right.
Yeah.
So this quest line will basically involve, the Alliance is now rolling in to take over Undercity, and we're not going to spoil too much, but I think something will happen that will make players upset with Sylvanas again. Yeah. So it's just basically a scenario, and you will have to do this in order to continue the storyline to get your necklace, to unlock the continents later on in Battle for Azeroth. So you cannot skip this. This is not going away in the pre-patch. This is like the first thing you will do as soon as you pick up Battle for Azeroth on any character.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. So you can do this next reset, which means that it's, I think, just a week before the expansion itself releases.
Yep.
That's it. And in case people didn't know, for the first time ever, so the pre-patch or the patches every week have been, separate for NA and EU. NA has got it one day before. But for the expansion itself, everyone will get it at the same time, which is cool. The change. Yeah. I think it's the first expansion ever that is actually released at the same time for both NA and EU.
Yep, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is scary. I guess we'll see how that goes.
So another interesting hotfix, actually two, one I didn't put in the notes because it was so new. The experience needed to level up was reduced between level 40 and 100. It's around a 14% reduction at levels 60 through 80, with smaller amounts at other levels. Blizzard previously said that 60 through 80 was a pain point, so there we go. What I didn't include in the notes was that there was a weird quest bug yesterday where if you were zoning, you were basically able to, you had lost your quest from your quest log due to zoning, various bugs. And if you had a quest in progress and it was like 90% done, you lost the quest and then you lost your progress. And Blizzard has fixed it, but of course, lots of people are, upset.
You can't get the progress back, right?
Yeah, and especially if something is like a multi-week quest, like, kill Elisand 4 times.
Yeah.
And I know, like, with some of our peers, or I have a few of these myself, some people like holding on to quests that are no longer available, like, the Encourage War Efforts, or just funny quests in your log. And if those were removed and you lose them, you can't get those back. So I know a lot of people are like, I've held on to this quest for 15 years, and now it's gone.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Someone mentioned in the chat the Firelands quest line as well. Some people were working on it for weeks, and then it got reset as well.
Oh yeah, all the legendary quests, all that's really bad. Yeah.
Yep. Fortunately, I didn't really have any progression quests, but I did have some of those old quests that kind of looked, not complete or bugged or something wrong with them that I just kept because it looked funny, and now they're gone as well.
Yeah.
So that's it.
In lighter news, there's an episode of Celebrity D&D. This is a show by Geek and Sundry. The Alliance and Horde take up arms in a special World of Warcraft themed episode based on the Islands Expedition feature. And the special guest was Terry Crews, playing the Thodak the Blacksmith, a Magher Orc warrior.
I'm I'm so happy that I don't know if I don't really watch this show, so I don't know if it's always him, but Terry Crews is awesome and he's really funny, so I think it was a really nice having him there.
Yeah,
but he's Horde. Feels bad.
I know. What I think is funny is Blizzard did this marketing push on Islands back in April, and it was kind of technical. It's like, oh, we have like new AI for NPCs, and like the maps change, stuff like the trees move around, and I feel like it it was very difficult to connect with it to players. Like I would talk about islands and it just would like not get much engagement. So I'm like, oh, here's another marketing angle for islands. You know, this is like the whole like RP immersion angle. Maybe this is a more interesting way to market islands. So curious to see how this goes. I do feel just, you know, going back to the Alliance versus Horde stories, what the Dungeon Master had to give them, it did seem more effective for the Alliance. You know, the Alliance are like, oh, the burning of the Second World Tree is still fresh in your minds as a thing of your defeat at the destruction of Sylvanas, you know, burns through your skin. And then, like, the Horde is just like, oh, you know, this stings that the Alliance attacked the Undercity. The Horde is
Oh, your voice disappeared. I'll just turn you up a lot.
Okay, test.
Never mind, you went up again. Alright, you're good.
But the Horde is just like, oh, we're sad we, like, were attacked at the Undercity and the losses suffered there still sting. Like, the Alliance one just seems to have better narrative sense, which is what we were getting at. And just to sidetrack a little bit, I feel that, I feel like the stories in the novellas were really good, but some of the marketing where it's like, rah, rah, pick a side, like, both sides are badass, it's a little out of place with, like, what actually has happened.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like, I think it would have been more interesting if both sides had something bad, you know, like both sides made some kind of like bad decisions, then and both sides made some good decisions, and then just make it like you're not sure which side to be on. Now it's, I think the Alliance side is pretty happy being Alliance, and the Horde side is a bit split at the moment.
Right. Well, but the Alliance is also like, okay, so we have the moral high ground, but like we're sort of a punching bag. Like we lost Theramore, lost Dornassus.
Yeah,
and,
losing everything.
We've seen all the pictures of Lordaeron, like, that end's covered in blight, so even if we win that, you know, we can't really do anything with this zone. And it's like, meanwhile, Sylvanas has this nice green forest thing. So, yeah, it's just like, okay. I mean, I know marketing is marketing. I know the Warcraft movie marketing was really weird for the actual story that was going on, but they're just... I think some players are anxious when they see the marketing and they think, oh, you know, some of the Blizzard thinks that, like, both sides are equally cool right now, or, like, both sides are, like, equally badass, and then people start getting anxious about, like, will the story be told well? So.
I'm gonna play, let's see, where is it? I'm gonna play the short clips that have been going around.
Yeah, like, this is what we're talking about.
So this one is presenting Sylvanas. I actually really like it. Those eyes. And then we have the Anduin one here. And we have some smaller ones. I'm gonna play this one again because what's interesting are the words that they're choosing. So for Sylvanas, they chose fearless, merciless, uncompromising. The music is too loud. I'll turn it down a little bit. All right, let's play the Anduin one. And what I was saying was saying that we should put extra, or we should notice the words that they choose. 3 very interesting words for each of the leaders. So for Anduin, they chose compassionate, principled, and so those were the little marketing things that we were discussing, and yeah, I feel like even the words make you know, the Horde sound a lot more fierce. Makes the Alliance seem more like, you know, the good boys that are just like very into punching justice. Punching bag.
And like they're all the same music, and it's just like, I know marketing has to do that. I know the marketing can't well, it would be interesting if they could, but they're probably not going to be like, everyone is mad at Sylvanas. Like that would not, that's not a way to get people to play. But it's just, I feel that everyone is like very emotional over Teldrassil, and then when we have this like rah-rah style of marketing, like, you know, like both sides gear up for war, who will win? It's like, well, you guys already provoked us and burned down a tree, so, you know, this kind of sucks for us. I don't know. It's just a little, I can see why people are anxious about the story, especially when you have like the jokes and then like you have this marketing that is sort of not recognizing the kind of atrocity of Teldrassil.
I'm still hoping that there'll be some kind of crazy plot twist still coming, something still unexpected. I was hoping that would be in these Warbringers, or not the Warbringers themselves, but in the unfolding of the burning of Teldrassil. I was hoping the plot twist would be there already. Unfortunately, it wasn't. The story became kind of black and white, very straightforward, not very gray at all.
I was hoping it was going to be Ashara, so like,
yeah,
I was
for
like,
example,
oh, you know, we'll have like Jaina dealing with her past, Sylvanas dealing with her past, and then we'll have like Ashara rising out from the sea, setting the tree on fire. That's what I thought was going to happen. And like, I'm a little concerned now because, you know, having played through the beta and seeing all the quests, like we have hints that, you know, Ashara or someone is involved, but it's all very like Zandalari troll and like Kulturas human centric. It's like, okay, well, you know, where's Malfurion? Where is like, do we get like a follow-up quest on what happened to the Night Elves? Like, it just sort of seems like that. Maybe they'll come back with a vengeance a few patches later, but it feels kind of, I don't know, abandoned for now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, on a lighter note, we have
internet is ripping, or not? It seems like it's back. Yeah, moving on from the marketing, we move on to World of Warcraft news on other places, and specifically Heroes of the Storm, which is another Blizzard game.
Yeah.
You want to test your mic? Okay, you sound good. Awesome.
So, High Inquisitor Whitemane from Scarlet Monastery is a new hero coming to Heroes of the Storm. She has her usual, like, boss attire, you know, with that tabard and her hat and her staff in 5 different tints. But then the interesting choice for the second skin, everyone thought it was going to be the Death Knight because that's the class campaign. But it's this, like, very over-the-top rainbow neon celestial empress. And, like, she looks crazy and over the top, and she is glitter, and her hair is changing rainbow colors. But I still think a lot of people will be curious to have that, you know, Legion Death Knight 4 Horseman tint be added as well.
All these skins actually look really pretty. Like, I don't really play Heroes of the Storm, but if I did, I would want to have all of these. They look so pretty.
Yeah, and the celestial ones in game on the PTR, there are lots of other effects. So, like, she has little sparkles around her that animate, and the hair changes colors. So it's very cool.
So which one was that with the changing colors? Is that the Celestial Empress?
Yeah, so the white and black one with the bottom rainbow hair, but for the tint where everything is sort of goldish, the armor, I think, changes colors. So you can kind of see how it's, like, modeled color, and I think that changes a little bit in game.
Warp Space, that's the one. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, they look really cool. Yeah, I think it's this one that's showing now on the stream. Oh, yeah. No, I just switched it. Whoops. But yeah, that was the one with the rainbow colored hair.
We also have some new WoW leggings made by the company Wild Bangerang.
Oh yeah.
Who I know you love leggings. I'm not as big of a fan, but even I have some leggings. Like I have these 2 pairs of Sylvanas leggings now, GG. I have Arthas leggings. I love their Dragonflight leggings. I've got Deathwing, and I have Alexstrasza. I've got the Alliance and Horde ones. And they're really known for super detailed leggings, like true to the actual armor in game. It's not just a pattern repeating all over. It actually looks like the armor. And they have 10 leggings as part of the collection, 5 Overwatch, and 5 World of Warcraft.
So I'm showing the Void Elf ones right now. As you can see with the comparison, you see the legs on the model and you see the in-game model and how they actually match each other in design pretty well.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Showing the light forged ones now. And Nightborn here. I think Nightborn is probably my favorite based on how they look like, but being the Alliance, I would have to go with Void Elf.
Yeah.
There you go. And this is the High Mountain one. High Mountain Tauren.
They also have blue Murloc leggings, and these are very detailed, and they really represent the in-game Murlocs. So, and like the color schemes are exactly the same. For example, the blue Murloc has a purple butt and green hands and yellow fins, things sticking up. And the leggings are true to form as well. It's not just like, oh, here's weird blue Murlocs, and it's like, oh, the part by the feet is green, and then the part by the top has lines that resemble the yellow fins. So I think it's really neat. And then they also have the Overwatch ones, which are Brigitte, Diva's Mech, Roadhog, Soldier 76, and Mercy. And we have a discount code that expires actually tomorrow, Friday, August 3rd at 4 p.m. Pacific, and 10% off all their Blizzard leggings with code WOWHEAD10.
So might as well make use of it while you still can.
Yeah, it's a weird time because they're like a UK-based company, so to them it's midnight, but to America it's slightly early.
Okay.
But yeah, they have tons of cool products. Another cool thing they have dresses. They have a Darkmoon Fair one, a Sylvanas one, and a Tyrande one. And yeah, I mean, just seeing, I think that Tyrande, it's like, they're all very flattering too. Like they have different details on the front and the back, and it's not like they're not just patterned nylon dresses. They really do try to be flattering, I feel, in their patterns. Like with Tyrande, you get a sense of like you're sort of wearing a corset and you have different layers flowing, even though it's just, you know, simple print.
Yeah, moving on, we've got some news on Wowhead itself.
Yeah, so just to run through this quickly, obviously we're pretty busy leading up into Battle for Azeroth. Our dev team's working hard on coding new features. Our guide writer team with, you know, lots of prominent people from various Discords and YouTube and Twitch. They're working really hard updating guides for every topic in BfA, including classes. But this week I wanted to draw attention to some of the newer things we were doing. The first is that we've teamed up with Hazelnutty Games, who is a YouTuber that specializes in cute things like battle pets and leveling tips, to do an overview on where you can find all the battle pets in Battle for Azeroth and how the new pet charm system works, as well as some notable pets like the Wicker Pup. We've worked with her to sponsor her video and then helped her, you know, with links putting together this guide on Wowhead. The next thing we've done, we worked with Sanghelios, who is a Wowhead guide writer that's like super into islands. Like he's always nagging us and we're like, oh, like we want to do something else. And he's written like so many guides on how islands work. They're a great source of Azerite. He's gone over all the Azerite you can get. He's gone over strategies for all the islands, things that you should keep in mind in spite of the maps changing. He explains the strengths and weaknesses of every island advanced AI team. All the rare events that can occur on the island, like rare spawns or little buffs that pop up. He goes into what all the consumables do, because islands are not locked to specific roles. So you could have like 3 DPS, but you could get a consumable that makes you really good at healing somehow. So he explains all the interesting utility the consumables bring. And then Night Swifty has written the guides to all the island expedition rewards, and there are lots of things like a pet based on the really funny Kakapo parrot, lots of transmog sets using unused tints from old raids like an ice blue tint of Paladin tier 12, and lots of weapons like recolors of shot-touched weapons. And then finally, the achievement guide going over how to get the expedition leader, meta, and title. So all those guides are up on Wowhead. We have a guide section, but if you don't know the page or whatever, just type islands into search, and this really pretty page will show up with all the island guides that we currently have.
And I'm actually showing it right now. I took a screenshot of the website. If I type islands as a search in the search field, this is what comes up. So it's pretty easy to find all the information that you need just by searching the word.
Yeah. We also, I know someone actually asked this in chat, like, what are warfronts? And we also have a new guide section up for Arathi warfronts as well. The most important thing is that warfronts are not PvP. They give the illusion of PvP, but you are fighting. You go into like an instance area and you manage troops and buildings and you fight against smart NPCs on the enemy faction, but it's like like a group scenario. You're not fighting other players. It's not PvP. And that's very interesting because there are some rewards that look like PvP gear, elite PvP gear from Warfronts. So we have a whole guide on where you get every tint and then like detailed variation of the tint from Warfronts, which I think you'll really like reading, Annie, because it took me like hours to sort this out.
I can imagine because there's so much.
Yeah, so we were sorting this out forever, and we have this guide being like, okay, if you want the plain version, win the Warfront. But if you want the more advanced version, where, kill the rares. And if you want the over-the-top version, like, you need to complete this weekly quest. And then we start piecing together, then it's like, oh, well, like, for the one for the weekly is the same as Elite Gladiator gear, but a different tint. So, like, that's a really big deal. You're getting, like, Elite Gladiator gear without having to PvP. Like, you're getting that appearance with no PvP involved. That's crazy. So, I think people should just understand that Warfronts are not PvP, and a lot of the Warfront gear has traits that are usually from Gladiator gear, like Azerite traits, but might be OP in PvE. And I know a lot of people are writing that gear off saying, like, oh man, it's like that PvP trait, like, I'm never going to get it. But it's like, no, just like, win the Warfront and you could get it.
Okay, gotcha. And the same thing with the Warfronts. If you just type in Warfronts in the search, you will get a page that looks like this with all the popular searches and guides that could help you understand what they are.
But yeah, most important thing, Warfronts are not PvP.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are just writing it off being like, oh, it's PvP. It's like, no, it's really not PvP.
Yeah.
Zero PvP involved. And then another community thing we did is, in addition to the story of Teldrassil that Novel and I released earlier today, we also did the story of Legion on the weekend, which was a recap of everything going from the cinematic trailer through 735. So you're all up to speed now as to what comes next, and that flows in nicely to our Before the Storm collaboration, which then flows into the Teldrassil collaboration. And we saw a few people saying they really liked the recap of the expansion. So if you want him to do that for other expansions, let us know, and we might consider doing that for one of our future collaborations.
Yeah, I really like the work that Novel does. It's awesome seeing you guys work together.
Yeah. So that wraps up most of the Wowhead community stuff. But we have a special section at the end that Annie will help present. We've partnered with Elgato, and we've written a guide if you want to get back into streaming. If you're playing World of Warcraft and you want to start streaming, where do you start? And we've written a guide highlighting like products and WoW tips and general social advice. And we've gotten two well-known WoW streamers, Zaryu, who's like very into PvP, and then, Sko from Method, who's focused, Forte is more on like PvE and raids.
Oh.
For the guide. Oh.
Okay, you're back.
Sorry. So we
okay.
got these two. We tried to get two people who were interested in like very different aspects of WoW to give tips on what made their stream successful, or what product they thought was good, or like how do you handle add-ons, or how do you handle your UI, or like what is good scheduling tips. And we think that adds a lot to the guide, because there are a lot of, generic guides just being like, oh, you should have a regular schedule, and like you should have a sponsor. It's like, okay, but like what does this mean specifically as a World of Warcraft player wanting to up my game and, spend some money on technical products that, maybe I haven't used before. So they explain things such as the Stream Deck with Elgato and some other products. And we thought that it would be cool if Annie could do a little, presentation as part of this partnership with Elgato to sort of enhance the guide and talk about how some Elgato products help us behind the scenes on Wowhead Weekly and offer a third perspective, as Annie is, a World of Warcraft streamer that is not a raid leader and not a gladiator. So
True. I am neither. Although I do raid lead my heroic runs on stream. So there's that. No, but yeah, I'm not a hardcore PvEer or hardcore PvPer. I am more of a... I don't know what to call myself, honestly. I think one of the words that defines a lot of what I do is collecting. So a collector. Variety streaming, but within World of Warcraft most of the time. Sometimes I do stream other games too, but most of the time it is World of Warcraft. So I think having a little talk to you guys about what things you need to think about if you want to stream yourself. I know that there is a lot of people who are very lost. I get questions all the time about how to start streaming, what program to use, what they need to think about. So Elgato was interested in partnering up with Wowhead and have a little how to stream section, not just to talk about Elgato, but to talk about streaming, because it's streaming itself can be like a whole lifestyle. If you're a full-time streamer, that is, it's a whole lifestyle. It's not just switch on your game, press stream, and then once stream is over, the whole thing is over. There's a lot to it. But we thought we should cover like the main topics, and I also can link it again in the chat, the text version of it, where you can see Sko and Zaryu commenting on their point of views on different aspects of streaming. And yeah, so we thought we would here while live on stream, and you guys can ask questions. We would talk a little bit about this as well. Just give me 1 second, guys. I have to double check one thing. In the meantime, I need to talk to Perk about something, so I'm gonna give you guys the intro scene, all right, for just 10 seconds.
Okay.
Don't panic. We'll be right back.
All right.
Remembering to unmute. All right, we're back.
Hey.
So hello everybody again. I hope we didn't worry you. Hope we didn't leave you guys in awkward silence. I think the in music was playing, so I think everybody should be fine. That was 11 seconds. Oh no, one more second than I promised. I'm so sorry. But yeah, hello again. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about streaming. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, just post them in the chat. If I see them, I'll just answer them directly. If I don't see them, don't be afraid to just @Sass or @Wowhead, and we'll take the questions at the end. Also, since this part is in partnership with Elgato, we will also put their logo up there in the top right corner.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics. So you're interested in streaming. And the first question that you probably will ask yourself is, what do I need to stream? Obviously, you need a PC. Well, if you're streaming World of Warcraft, you need a PC. There are ways of streaming directly from a console as well. But you need a PC that is capable of streaming, and you need decent enough internet, right? The recommended amount of internet that you need is around 10 megabytes upload. Could work at 5 megabytes too, but that 5 megabytes has to be very, very, very stable, because any kind of instability around that much is a bit low. Yeah, that's sorting out the basics. Secondly, you need a program which actually streams your content onto, you know, the online platform. So for us, this case is Twitch. There's mainly 2 different programs that people use. OBS is one of them. Open Broadcast Software, I think is what it's short for. OBS Studio is the popular one. And another option is XSplit. So I actually have experience with both of them. And I use OBS, for example, for Wowhead Weekly, and I use XSplit for my own stream. Preference, you could try both and see which one you prefer, honestly. The basics of them is the same. And megabytes, sorry, did I say the wrong word? That's true. There's also a new one going around, Streamlabs OBS, which is a combination of Streamlabs together with OBS. You might ask yourself, what is Streamlabs? So Streamlabs is the main alert program that most streamers make use of. I say most, but it's not exactly most. I believe the percentage is, I recently read an article about it, and I think it's at least 30% of all streamers using Streamlabs, which is a pretty big deal. But there are other ones as well which are decent that I've heard of. I haven't used them myself, but for example, Stream Elements is one as well. I think there might be some other ones too. I can't think of them right now, but Streamlabs and Stream Elements are other ones, are the options that I can think of right now. I personally use Streamlabs, and from the article I could also see that both Sko and Zarya use Streamlabs as well, and it works, so why not? I saw someone asking why I'm using both. Honestly, it kind of just happened, and I haven't changed my habit. Sometimes when you have a habit and it works, you just continue using that, whatever you're using. I found that there were certain functions on OBS that I liked, so I kind of stuck with OBS for these shows. I like XSplit for me personally because on my own stream, I tend to screen region random things all the time, and I feel like screen regioning in XSplit is a lot smoother than OBS. So, did I say in OBS? Then OBS. It's smoother in XSplit than it is in OBS, because with XSplit I can mark the area that I want to show on stream, and then it shows. On OBS I have to capture the whole window and then like edit it. You could use studio mode and make the edits yourself before you actually push it live, but that's a lot of work. I mean, it's something that I do for this show, so if I want to edit something, I can go into studio mode, switch scene, and then show it to you guys. For example, if I go into studio mode now, I can go into, let's see, I could go into the Wild Bangarang tab without you guys seeing anything. I'll switch to show the Nightborn model and legs, and then I'll push it through. And then I can go back to us here and switch the models to, I don't know, maybe Lightforged, and show it to you guys again. I don't mind doing that for this show because it's a podcast and I'm pushing through a lot of different images and a lot of different things. But on my personal stream, I don't necessarily show images like that. I don't necessarily have tons of sources. What I do use is the idea of screen regioning a lot, because it could be like, oh my God, guys, did you just see this tweet? And then I want to quickly screen region that tweet and show it to you guys. Instead of doing this, for example. Now this is going to look bad. I'm going to show you guys how it would look like if I was not using studio mode. I would have to tag one off, the other off, then the other on, and then the other on. So it's, yeah, it's like that. That's how it works. So, yeah, that was a little bit of an overview on studio mode. Honestly, studio mode can be it can be considered a bit of an advanced class. You don't necessarily have to use studio mode, but it's just an extra piece of information in case that is useful for you. In terms of once you have your stream going, you may wonder, like, what should I put in my title? I think for World of Warcraft specifically, the examples that were mentioned in this article are pretty good ones, mentioning, for example, viewer raids, makes people who are interested check out the stream to see who actually I need to do my weekly raid. Maybe they can take me in, right? Or maybe someone who's like, oh, actually I've never done these raids. Maybe the streamer will help me out. So it's very useful to type in viewer raids in your title. Whether it be a heroic in Taurus, a normal in Taurus, you can specify that too. Sometimes I'm pretty bad with this, I forget, but you can also specify if you are EU or NA. Not super important, but just like a little side thought. Because sometimes people come into my stream and they're like, so is this EU or NA, or like what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, this is EU. Sorry guys. Not NA. Transmog farming. Going for 95%, you know, if you are an A to T nerd like me, you can put that in your title because that would attract all other A to T nerds out there. And if someone is scrolling through the different streams, they might see, oh, okay, this person's actually into A to T. That's interesting for me, so I'm gonna go there. I think in general, specifying what you're doing is great because for the people who are browsing through just reading titles, they will base their decision on whether they should join or not based on that. I mean, I think sometimes it could be fun to have a Mimi title as well, but I don't think it's good to have, like, let's say, just your name in the title. Because if it's just your name, if I'm scrolling through and I see someone called Daniel, and then why would I enter the stream that's called Daniel? It doesn't tell me anything. Like, he could be doing something that I hate, he could be doing something that I love, but it doesn't make me want to click it, right? Another example, war mode on, invading Orgrimmar. You know, for people who are like, oh, you know what? I actually need to invade Orgrimmar for that achievement that I need. Battle for, what is it called? For the Alliance? I forgot what the achievement is called. Yeah.
Yeah, so, for the Alliance for the Horde. So.
That's it. Then you're like, oh, that's actually really fun. I love PvPing and I need to progress that achievement. So why not? Let me go and check it out. Damn, Daniel. So yeah, just put something in the title which is explaining what you do somewhat, and hopefully attracting people who are interested in the same thing as you are. Pushing Mythic Plus, another one. Pushing plus 23s, pushing 30 pluses, plus 30s, I mean, whatever it is that you do. Because I think World of Warcraft is such a huge game that it has very niche kind of communities and all the different aspects of it. Like A to T is a community of its own, Mythic Plus is a community of its own. I mean, these communities sometimes do like clash as well. I mean, not clash, what's the word? They do sometimes like go on top of each other. What's the word I'm looking for?
Skirmishes?
I'm looking for a verb. Combine, I guess, is the word I'm looking for.
Okay, yeah.
Overlap, yeah, exactly. So then sometimes if you have your title specifying A to T, you'll get the A to T people coming in, and if you specify Mythic Plus, then you'll have Mythic Plus enthusiasts coming in, etc. Yeah, so what else do we need? So now we are...
just one quick note we saw in chat. People are asking if some of the software you are talking about, is it free or not?
All right, so OBS Studio is 100% free, available to everybody. XSplit has a free version and a paid version. I think with XSplit, if you stream under a certain resolution, it's free. Otherwise, you get a watermark. So if you want to be on the safe side, especially starting off streaming, maybe it is safer to just check out OBS since it is free and available to everybody. But I just wanted to give an overview of what is out there. I don't think that when you are new to streaming that you should spend a lot of money in it because you know, it might be a waste, right? Like, I think you should invest as much as is worth. And if it's a hobby, I think you should start off with the most convenient and as little money as possible spent. So
yeah, I mean, like, just to jump in, like with any hobby, I feel like you should just figure out like what you love about it, and don't be that person that has to be like, I must have like everything with the perfect setup because
on the first day,
and like you never actually. You always are afraid that you're not good enough, as opposed to just finding your brand and experiment to see what works.
Yeah, exactly. You take one thing at a time and just, you know, upgrade according to what you feel will help your stream the most when it's time, basically. You will get a feel for it because you will start realizing things yourself when you check out your own VODs. Maybe you'll get feedback from viewers and all that stuff. So yeah, I just saw someone say most viewers I had while streaming was like 10. That's a really good start. That's a really good start. I think we all remember when we had just a couple of viewers, and 10 is the double digits. So that's pretty good. Another thing is chat. In terms of chat and commands, I think my first bot ever was probably Nightbot, and honestly, I still use Nightbot. So it's, I mean, I don't only use Nightbot, I have my own bot too, which is, it's customized for me, so I have really cool commands, and my bot actually speaks to people too. So if you type Annie's bot hi in my chat, she will respond to you. Yeah, I call her a she. But obviously starting off, I never had a customized bot, so what I would suggest is starting off with Nightbot. I think some people use Moobot and similar things, but I never really use them. So my experience is I would start off with Nightbot. It's pretty good. It's got lots of options, lots of ways of blacklisting things, lots of, yeah, just a lot of things like that. So I think Nightbot is definitely a bot that I would recommend to start with. In terms of camera, there's lots of streamers, or, well, not really. There are streamers, maybe not lots of, but there are streamers who play without a camera. But I feel like a camera is what personalizes your stream to be about you. And I know that for some streams that doesn't matter because they show a lot of personality with their voice and what they say. But I think starting off streaming, you will get more interest and more exposure, in my opinion, if you do use a camera. You don't have to, but it's recommended. It's recommended. And yes, you could start off with, you know, just a simple webcam and see how that feels. And then if you want to go to the next level and want to upgrade your stream, that's when you can start using, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but the cam link that Elgato has, I think it came out this year, maybe last year. It's pretty new. It's Elgato was the first one, maybe still the only one actually in the industry to provide something like this, where you can connect your regular camera, like a normal, you know, pro camera, via USB to capture your camera with into your OBS. So that means you're suddenly getting like a really pro HD looking camera as you're streaming. And that is something to recommend to people who have, you know, been streaming for a while, getting into it and wants to upgrade their stream to look even more pro. So that is one thing that you can do if you're concerned about how you look, and if you're not happy with how your webcam looks, then that is an option. What else can we cover? What else can we cover? Streaming in general. So when I'm doing these shows for this podcast, I do have a few buttons here. I don't know if you've ever seen me. My left arm sometimes reaches to this side, and that's when I'm changing the different scenes. Like for example, I could go like. Oh. I wasn't ready for that. Yeah, that played automatically because it's on the scene. So that wasn't meant to play automatically. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so this was the button to switch scene to me. This is the button to switch to Perk. Hi, Perk. And Perk is muted, but we could see that smile, so that's okay.
Hello.
Hi. And then we have a button for changing to both of us. And you can also add other things, like the Stream Deck is actually very customizable. Like what you can do is actually unlimited. You can do so much with that. Like I've done so little, but even like the little I have done is pretty fun. For example, I added these today to show you guys some examples of fun stuff. You see that face of Perk? I'm clicking it. Bam! Now we see the Perk emote on top of her camera to show her face. And I made a similar one for myself. Derpy, because, you know, I tend to be derpy and I tend to make mistakes when I do stuff. And I can do that with this as well. And if I wanted to, I could also add sound effects. I can add like all sorts of stuff. I also have a little Murloc that should pop up. Wait, wrong side. This way here. There. It's really cute. Actually, I think I might make it just stay there. And I can also change scenes. For example, I have a button for scene 1. If I wanted to, if you guys remember, scene 1 when we were talking about the collector's edition. And then I can use this to get back here as well. So this is just an example of how you can make use of the Stream Deck. And like I said, like your creativity is the limit. Like you can do so much with it. Also, these little images that I have here, you can put GIFs in there too. So the images can be moving. You can also use the Stream Deck to mute and unmute. You can, yeah, you can use it for a lot of things. You can also use it, so this is also something that's recommended for streamers who are, possibly somewhat consistently receiving donations, because some donations can be bad messages. So this might be more appropriate for streamers who are a bit more experienced and a bit more experienced, I guess. You can use the Stream Deck in order to skip alerts, because sometimes you get a donation and the sole purpose is to write something rude on the screen, and you can use the Stream Deck to just skip that donation. Yeah. If you guys have any questions as I'm talking about these things, like, don't be shy. Feel free to ask anything that you want to. Oh, another interesting thing about the Stream Deck is that a new one just came out, I think last week. It was introduced.
The mini one, I think.
Exactly, the mini one. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's got 6 buttons. So it's about this big. So if you don't feel like you need the whole thing, you could go for a smaller version. And because you can create folders, like this is a folder, for example, because you can create folders, you can actually you're not limited to just 6 buttons. You can actually change it and use folders and be creative and do all sorts of stuff. Something else that I do on my own stream, it won't work here, but I have a folder called social media. And here I have my Instagram, my Twitter, my YouTube, and my Snapchat. So if I press any of these buttons, I believe I also have my Discord. Yeah, there's my Discord. If I press any of these buttons, the message appears in my own chat that says like, here's Annie's Instagram. You can check it out.
Speaking of Instagram, I didn't know if you had any thoughts on like how you use the different platforms, just general advice for streamers. Like I know you're really into posting like a leggings picture as like the middle image on your Instagram for a while. So, obviously advice is not everyone put leggings up, but it just, it's interesting to hear how people use social media in different ways.
I can actually talk about these social medias here in order. So the first one on this side is the Snapchat one. I used to use Snapchat a lot in the past, but eventually Instagram stories actually have started to replace that need, because Instagram stories reaches all my Instagram followers, right? And if I'm working hard to get Instagram following, then I don't really need to do the stories on Snapchat. Sometimes I still feel like the Snapchat filters look better, and I do post on Snapchat anyways for fun, but at the end of the day, I think the stories are more useful on Instagram. But the main purpose of my Snapchat was when I'm traveling to just post stupid pictures that I felt like weren't, good enough for my Instagram, because I want my Instagram to be kind of clean and not like too low quality or too, like, let's say there's a picture and like you can only see half my face, for example. I wouldn't really put that on Instagram, but I could put that for fun on Snapchat, because I don't really care about the quality of the pictures on Snapchat.
And you have like filters, so you could be like, oh, here's like a silly derpy like graphic on top of my face.
Exactly, like really ridiculous filters. I wouldn't really put that on Instagram, but I would put that on Snapchat. Nowadays, I can just put that on Instagram stories. So you don't really need to use Snapchat, but it's there as an option if you don't have an Instagram following anyways, then you might as well want to use both of them. But that's how I used to use Snapchat, at least. I used to mostly only use it when I'm traveling, not much when I'm at home, because when I'm at home, I tend to stream pretty long hours, and when I'm not streaming, I'm usually doing something else, so I don't really have time to I would have time, it doesn't take long, but I don't really think about let's take a selfie on Snapchat. But when I'm traveling, usually when on the train or in the car or wherever I am, I tend to be like, hey, I want to connect with people at home, but I don't know what I would do in a tweet, so I'm just going to post a stupid picture on Snapchat, and people will hopefully see it and have a laugh. For example, my YouTube, I use my YouTube for mainly highlights of the stream. I have some videos that are not highlights, and I guess those would be called vlogs. When I travel to different events like DreamHack or BlizzCon or TwitchCon, I tend to record all my stuff, like everything that I do. It could be anything. It could be actual booth work, like it could be, you know, actual streaming stations, or it could be something simple as like we're just having dinner right now. I record everything, and then I have friends who help me put those together, edit the videos. I don't really edit my own videos, and then it's put together as a video, and then I upload it onto YouTube. And so YouTube becomes like the sort of the storage of all the memories in a way. So like highlights from stream that I try to make as, you know, funny as possible. Maybe not funny, sometimes just like milestones. I think milestones are great for YouTube, especially as a World of Warcraft player. So for example, when I reached 500 mounts on YouTube, I was like, okay, I need a YouTube video that highlights when I got 500 mounts. Another example is when I hit 98% on A to T. Another example is when
Chromatic sword.
Chromatic sword, oh god. The chromatic sword.
Yeah.
So I made a video of chromatic sword when I just bought it because I was really happy that I got a good deal for about 6 million gold. And the funny thing is that after the chromatic sword was reintroduced to the game, that's when suddenly my views of that video like tripled. Because that's when it suddenly became interesting. Like people are tuning in and they're like, haha, by the way, this weapon drops in the game now. And I'm like, I know, you know, that's 90% of what the other comments are also saying. I know, but I think it's funny. Like I don't take it bad at all. I think it's hilarious, and I think it's funny. But yeah, so as an example, if you make a huge purchase or if you have a huge achievement or anything, you can make a highlight of it and put it up on YouTube. That's what I would recommend to you as a World of Warcraft streamer. If you stream World of Warcraft every day or whenever you do, once you do something that you haven't done before, some kind of milestone, achievement, finding a pet in the game or getting a pet in the game, getting a mount in the game, all of those things can become highlights and you can put them on YouTube.
Yeah,
I think you were saying something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would also just note that, you know, like being a YouTuber is very different than, you know, being a streamer. So it's very difficult to try to do like very detailed YouTube videos, but also be a full-time streamer. You know, you have to just use your YouTube to maybe have like a catchy thumbnail and then highlight a stream interesting moment, as opposed to like, well, now I will have these beautiful fancy graphics and like do a visual guide on YouTube with like maps and buttons and everything showing how I got this thing. So you have to prioritize your time.
Yeah, I'm really small on YouTube. Like Perk mentioned, I'm a full-time streamer. I'm not a YouTuber, but I do find that highlight videos or milestone videos are the most popular. Like the chromatic sword video has been pretty popular on my YouTube, sorry. And I've noticed like Abyss Worm dropping has been pretty popular. Getting 500 mounts has been popular. So it's just an idea of like popular in my terms, you know. I'm not talking like tens or hundreds of thousands of views. Just on my scale, I have a small YouTube channel. It's been going okay for those videos. Yeah, other ideas which have not been super popular but that I've done in the past are also highlights of other games that I play. So for example, if I play Fortnite, I highlighted the game that I had my first win in, for example. It wasn't super popular, but I like having it for like collection purposes. I just feel like it completes my YouTube, so I wanted to highlight that too. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers my view on YouTube from a streamer perspective. Mm-hmm. I would say. Next on is Twitter. I use Twitter for everything. No, I think Twitter is the most important social media. If you don't feel like doing YouTube, you don't have to. If you don't feel like doing Snapchat, definitely don't have to. YouTube is useful. I think building a YouTube following can be good for your brand, especially if you're looking to grow in general. Snapchat is not useful, so you can skip that completely. But Twitter is very important. Twitter is the #1 social media outside of Twitch itself in terms of importance. Twitter is the way to connect with your viewers. I know there's a lot of people who don't use Twitter, but it's very easy to convince them to do so because it's free and it's very simple to use. And it's a great way to connect with other streamers, other communities. It's a great way to be updated on what is going on, based on what other streamers that you're following are saying, or based on maybe companies that you're following, maybe DreamHack or maybe World of Warcraft. I feel that Twitter has been my most important social media, apart from Twitch. Also, things like if you're having a day off, then you could tweet it. You could tweet like, hey, actually today I'm feeling a bit sick, or whatever the problem is. And people who follow you on Twitter will hopefully be most of the people who regularly watch you, so they won't be too surprised if you're gone because they had just seen it on Twitter. So I think growing your Twitter together with your Twitch is very important. And I think the way to do that is probably to remind people that you do use Twitter, and remind people that Twitter is great for, you know, that one-on-one contact. Also being active on Twitter, you know, mentioning when you go live, mention whenever you do have a day off. Don't be like, oh, I'm not going to stream today anyway, so I'm not going to be active on Twitter. Just put a simple message like, hey, I'm not streaming today, you know, just as a reminder, but I'll see you guys tomorrow. Maybe with a slight hint of a plan, like I'll see you guys tomorrow for more Mythic Plus, for example, or anything. And you can also be a lot more personal with your Twitter. You could, like I'm very personal with, you know, how I speak to people. You can be personal too if you want to, if that's your style, of course. But you could mention like, hey, like, you know what, actually I've been having a bit of a low day today. And then people who follow you, they, you know, they might feel something similar. And hearing it from a viewer perspective, it connects you, you know, because at the end of the day, like, we're all humans, you know, in case you didn't know. And I think having things that people relate with is great, and I think those things can fit okay on Twitter. It's not, you don't want to be emotional every single stream, right? But I think on Twitter, it's okay to sometimes, you know, throw a tweet which is a bit more, you know, personal, a bit more to heart. And I would
also add that with WoW specifically, Blizzard a few years ago was very heavily on Twitter with doing things like reveals or the devs answering questions. That has died down a bit, but there is still a vibrant community specifically for WoW. For example, with the burning of Teldrassil, a lot of artists are sharing art on Twitter specifically about how their characters are reacting.
Internet
so is a community of Twitter on like artists. There's a community on Twitter of artists, of crafters. A lot of the data mining is shared there. So it just seems to be, I think Twitter has like special importance to WoW, maybe more so than other games.
I think that's actually a good point that you make, because a lot of these, for example, like Q&As, right? They always they take options, or they take questions from Twitter, among other things. And it's I think Twitter is great to use. Sometimes it makes me sad because Twitter is not popular at all in Sweden compared to in the US, but hopefully, you know, soon we'll get there. Like, I know some streamers who average like 100, 200 viewers on Twitch, and they don't even have a Twitter account. And I'm like, how? Why? Right. And then they tell me that they use Facebook. And I guess because Facebook is very popular in Sweden, it makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah. I personally don't use Facebook, so I'm probably missing out something there. But I kind of feel like I have my use of Twitter, and I don't know what I would do on Facebook, which I wouldn't do on Twitter. So it would feel like just a copy, right? I feel like having social media for a purpose, and I don't know what my purpose would be with Facebook. So that's kind of why I haven't really done Facebook. But I would recommend, you know, if you want to grow your brand, to grow all your social media. So finding a use for Facebook is probably very useful as well.
Yeah, like if you don't want to use a social media, have a good reason for it. Don't just be like, oh, well, like, I don't know what it is, so I won't use it.
Yeah. And like, I think also having social media and just copying your content on all of them is also kind of a waste, because then it's like, oh, but then your Twitter, your Instagram, and your Facebook are identical. Why would I follow you on all of those if I can just follow one and not miss out on information? So an option, for example, is on Facebook to have more I don't know, more stories maybe. Because Facebook, you can write pretty long posts, which are too long for Twitter. And maybe they fit better there than Instagram, because maybe you don't want a photo together with it. So I have thought about it, but I haven't really made it fit my brand, I guess, or me. It hasn't fit me, so I haven't used it. Yeah. But it is possible to find.
Facebook is better for organizations. Like on Wowhead, there's different news articles that do especially well just on Facebook, and then there's a different segment that does well, you know, just on Twitter. Like on Twitter, I do a lot of live blogging, but on Facebook, I'll just be like mag or orc armor, you know, photo, and that's like the flashy stuff does well, the basic stuff, you know, more casual stuff or the shock value. But on Twitter, it's like a lot of Q&A and like, here's a funny item and here's a meme. And then with Discord, the webhook, that's really popular for, you know, class data mining and things like guide
Discord
updates.
is great.
Yeah.
Discord is great for the community. It's a place for people to, I mean, I know a lot of my viewers are just hanging out in my offline chat. I see like at least 10 different names in the past 5 minutes in my offline chat. They're just sitting there talking. But Discord is also a great place for people to hang out. You can make channels specifically for different purposes. I have an IRL channel, for example, where people can share the, you know, faces of their pictures. No, they can share pictures of their faces if they would want to. I also have a pet zone where people can share pictures of their cats and dogs or any other pets that they have. I have different channels for specific games that I know that are popular within the community. And sometimes even if I'm not streaming, I see people there who are just like, you know, playing a game together. Could be World of Warcraft, could be Fortnite, could be anything. And they're just hanging there talking to each other, people who have made friends within the community, which is always very heartwarming to see. And they're just sitting there together talking and playing the game together. I think Discord is Discord is the best place for communication in a community. And you should definitely build your own channel and take a look at what kind of chat channels and what kind of voice channels could be, you know, useful for you. And another thing is announcement channel in Discord as well. You can have an announcement channel where you can maybe on a weekly basis or just whenever something pops up, you just, you know,
like a new emote. Like, hey,
emote.
everyone. Like,
see, now I'm realizing, hey, I haven't done this. I'm slacking. I should probably write in my Discord like, hey, by the way, we have 3 new emotes as of last week. So, you know, maybe you want to start using these. That's a very good point. Thanks, Perk. But yeah, there's always ways of improving. No one knows everything. And I don't know everything either. I'm just giving, you know, advice based on what I do. And hopefully it'll give you some kind of inspiration to find out what works for you.
Yeah, I want to make a quick note about Discord. I think this works for streams as well, but there's lots of cool bots. And there's a giveaway bot, so you can, like, everyone can just emote to enter a giveaway on Discord. So if you have like a, you know, branded partnership with a product and you want to do giveaways, you can use a program like Leam to, you know, follow people across social media. Or you can do something for your more hardcore followers for loyalty in a Discord where, you know, you can set this emote thing to run for like 72 hours. And if they emote, they have a chance to win, like, I don't know, a microphone or a chair or something.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said a chair. But,
well, you never know. Maybe they'll win a chair.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I love using that on Wowhead, actually. And even just linking to other giveaways. Like, for example, we did this at like 1 a.m. my time. We announced a collector's edition. And in our giveaway announcement channel, we're like, hey, y'all, it's not a Discord giveaway, but we have this, you know, site giveaway going on, comment to enter, and we had like 500 comments like instantly. So it's a good way of directing people toward like your most loyal people that follow, that really are interested in what you're doing, to go check something really important out that you're proud of.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I was about to comment something, but then now I lost my line of thought. I don't know what I was gonna say. Probably will come back to me, so it's no big deal. Maybe it's based on the questions I saw. I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm sure it'll come back to me, no problem. Another topic, if in case you are interested in streaming something which is not World of Warcraft, is if you have a console, for example, PlayStation. I actually have all consoles. I did not used to have all consoles before, but during my 4 years of streaming, I've actually been gifted, I think, every single one of them. So this is my community just being very, very supportive. Thank you guys. You guys are the best. And I have all consoles. I have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation, I have a Nintendo Switch, I have a Wii U. And some of these games I have played because they are interesting even for World of Warcraft players, because not everyone plays only World of Warcraft. Some people play some other games too, and there are certain games that are super retro, you know, like Super Mario, or it could be games like, what other games have I played? Dark Souls has kind of been a mixture between PlayStation and PC, but that's another example of something that I've played on a console. Were you going to mention something?
Oh, no, there's just a chat question that I saw, but I think it's unrelated to this.
Okay, we can take it after then. Zelda is a great example. Zelda is a great... So when I told my stream that I'd never played Zelda, everyone rioted, like, okay, you need to play it. So I ended up playing Zelda. I've played all games now, all the major ones, except for Twilight Princess. So that's my last game that I have it, but I just haven't had time to play it yet. You know, I blame all the World of Warcraft farming that I do. It's hard to find time to play other games, you know. I try, but it's difficult. So Zelda is another game, an example of a game on a different console that I play. And when I play games on other consoles, what you need, in case you don't know, is a capture card. A lot of people tune into my stream during these games, like, how are you playing this? Is this an emulator? And it's not. It's really simple. The capture cards that exist nowadays, I know in the past, like years ago, capture cards are really difficult to find. Mainly because the capture cards that existed all had a delay to them. So it would be like you would see something on the screen, and then there's like a delay for like a second or so before people can actually see it. So you would react to something before your viewers would actually see what happened. Like you would die to something, for example, fall into a hole, and people don't see that happening until like a second or two later. So it was really not ideal for streaming. But as of, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years now, maybe a bit more actually, probably a bit more, capture cards have become really good. And for example, Elgato has got one too that I would recommend. I have used it myself. I don't know where it is right now. It's here somewhere. It's very small. It's really easy to use, and I've had it for years. And it's basically a connection from HDMI from your console to the capture card, and from the capture card, HDMI to the monitor that you'll be using for you to see it. So your computer monitor, for example, I would use it on my main monitor, and a USB from the capture card to the computer. So, and that's it. And then you will get capture the image and sound from your console directly into OBS or XSplit or whatever you're using, and then people can see it. And there's no delay. There's, well, no delay that you can actually see. Maybe there's like 0.00 or something. But there's no delay that you can experience or that you can actually see. So it's great. It really works well if you are looking into streaming console games. Because I think emulators can be a little iffy. I think there's certain rules on them. Like if you can prove that you own the game, then it's okay to use an emulator. But I don't know. I feel like emulators are really iffy. I would rather use a capture card than to do that.
So this question I got is a Discord one. It was by Fremochu, who said, how do I mute specific things while streaming so I can only hear it and the stream won't, for example, have Discord when I'm in a call?
Ooh. So the simple solution is to mute all your sound except your microphone. So if I hear an OBS, for example, if I mute the part that says desktop audio, you guys will not hear perk anymore. But this can be annoying because if I'm listening to music, you won't hear the music either. There are more complicated solutions for it where you need basically another program to deal with those things. I don't know which ones to recommend to you because I don't use them. But if it's for temporary moments, you can definitely do that. You just mute desktop audio to mute them, and then it's fixed. Yeah, voice meter. Is that it? Voice meter banana? There you go. Yeah, basically you need to use a virtual audio something. Virtual audio cable. That's it. Yeah, it's not an easy setup. So it's advanced basically. If it's just sometimes needing to mute, I would just mute desktop audio within your OBS. But if it's more complicated than that, then you may want to look into that instead. There is no fast solution for it, unfortunately. It would be really nice if within OBS you'd see like Discord and like, you know, all the different things, and you just like mute the one that you want to mute. But unfortunately, there is no such thing. So there's that. So what else do we have? World of Warcraft, maybe some World of Warcraft tips in general, some add-ons that I use. World of Warcraft, I think the most important add-ons that you probably need as you are just playing normally, if you raid sometimes, deadly boss mods or bigwigs is what you could use, which gives you alerts on important mechanics or deadly mechanics or anything that's important. It also helps you get a pull timer, which most raids would use, so I would recommend getting one of those. All the Things is a fun add-on used for tracking your collections. I would recommend that if you are interested in collecting anything. You can use tons of different filters to change it according to what you want. You don't have to collect everything. You can filter out anything that doesn't interest you. For example, if you're only interested in mounts, you can tick off everything else. Weak auras is pretty useful if you're looking into becoming a better player in a sort of PvE environment, because it helps you track your buffs, debuffs, or any other things that are interesting to you in a way that you prefer. So weak auras are highly customizable. You can do anything with them, but from a beginner point of view, it might feel very complicated. I tend to ask people to make me. I see people saying what face? Is there something wrong with the sound, or is that okay? No, they're they're responding to the bot.
Oh.
I just saw a lot of shocked faces. I was like, oh no, did something happen to the sound? Okay, no. Apparently there was a crazy win in the bot in the chat. All right. Well, congratulations, you guys. Where was I? Yeah, weak auras. So there are also
weak auras, by the way, if you're like wanting to learn more, we have a walkthrough. But yeah, asking people is great. There's a great compilation sites out there as well with like the most popular ones.
Did you mean a walkthrough of weak auras?
Yeah.
Awesome. So Wowhead's got guides on those. There you go. I was just going to suggest like, yeah, you may want to look up some maybe like of your favorite streamers or someone who wants to provide you with them. But there you go. There's a guide on it on Wowhead. So there's that. Another add-on which is pretty useful is Details, because it helps you see how much damage you do, how much damage your peers do, how much healing people do. It's a good way to compare to see your own improvement and also see how you are doing compared to everyone else. So, and Details is much better than both Skada and Recount. I don't remember which one was which, but comparing Recount and Skada, one is just highly inaccurate, the other it takes a lot of resources or something. I don't know. They were both bad anyways, so you should go for Details and be happy with that and feel confident that it shows the right numbers.
Like, a lot of viewers will be like, oh, you know, like, what spec in the raid is, like, on top in your Details, and then people will be like, oh, like, this class seems overpowered, or, you know, like, oh my god, I saw you died because of this, or you took more damage. So, you know, people just like being commenting on what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I also noticed, you know, since the chat is now spammed with stream elements points, I'd like to mention the idea of loyalty points in your stream. Loyalty points are great. What you want to do with them is completely up to you. The idea is that you have a bot that tracks how long someone has been in the chat, and then you can use those points to do something. For example, to gamble. So we have people who are gambling in roulette right now, and sometimes they're lucky and win points. Sometimes they're unlucky and they lose points. You can also do other things that I haven't done in the past, for example, to spend points for song requests. You can also... I have a feature where you can spend a certain amount of points to time someone out for a minute. So people, you know, if they... it's, for the most part, 99% of the time, it's not used for anything malicious. If it is used for anything malicious, we just disable it. It's no problem. But people, for fun, time each other out for a minute if they're not happy with something that the other person said. For example, if someone says for the Horde, then I encourage everyone to please time them out for a minute. Then, you know, you can do that with your points. But yeah, you can be very creative and do a lot of different things. You can also, for example, if you're holding a giveaway on your stream, you can have a raffle system with these points where people can spend their points to, you know, purchase raffle tickets. That means the most loyal people will be able to afford more raffles, right? More raffle tickets, and therefore they'll have a higher chance of winning. And the points, you can deal with them in any way you want to. You could reset them on a monthly basis. You could let them grow forever. There's many different things you can do with them. But yeah, loyalty points is something that I would also recommend you to look into if you are interested in having like a sort of community, which I think is important on Twitch. So
yeah,
I would recommend loyalty points. And yeah, I think one of the main last things now for me to mention, or maybe there's many things, scheduling. So I am probably not a great example of looking at healthy schedule. I stream way too much. I don't know why I do that. I just do. I guess it's a passion, and it's hard for me to limit myself. But you should try and create a schedule and then stick to it. Have certain hours of the day that works for you, and then you know, base your stream around what works for you. You know, so if for your IRL situation it works best to stream evening times, then you stream evening times. If it makes sense for you to stream during the day, then you stream during the day, and you take it from there. And remember to also sometimes take time off. Again, I'm kind of like telling myself this, but yeah, you have to sometimes give yourself some time off as well. Just grinding at all times is not necessarily the best thing. Sometimes you can also be tactical with your scheduling. So if you see like, hey, I have a pretty similar stream to this person and they stream at this time, so maybe I should consider changing my stream schedule slightly to catch people at a different time, for example.
Right. Or like reacting to events like, you know, if Blizzard does a Q&A, like you could be rehosting it and commenting with your own chat, or you could make sure like, oh, like they were talking about something that's really relevant to my, you know, game interest. Like I'm going to hop on and we'll review the Q&A all together. Or like if you're really into data mining, it's like, oh, like I'm going to hop on if Wowhead finds something really cool and give my reaction and, you know, read through the notes, stuff like that. But I mean, definitely. Like if, you know, obviously like if your stream isn't, you know, focused on something like that, it doesn't matter. But if you are someone that's trying to be like, you know, all up on things, or maybe you really care about classes, or you know, then it would make sense to you know, kind of be like, oh, here's my opinion on all this cool stuff happening.
Another thing which is really cool, specifically for World of Warcraft stream, are the extensions that are available. I do not think that we have them active on this stream right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense. Really?
Yeah, because we're not really playing the game right now. But if you are, there's 2 extensions that can be of interest. Let me see if I can link them to you. Let's see. Copy link. There is this one, the Wowhead one, and then there is the World of Warcraft one as well, which could be interesting. And these extensions are great if you are playing the game, because it gives users the possibility to click through your character and see what talents you're using and what gear you have, and I think there's a bunch of other details too. So it's pretty useful if you know, tend to play World of Warcraft most of the time on your stream. Then a lot of that information can be very interesting for people. So I would recommend considering or looking into those extensions as well.
Yeah, the Wowhead one is an overlay, which means that it's not below the stream in the biography information area. It's buttons that are minimized, actually, like on, you can watch this, and if you are curious what talents someone have, you just click the button, like the talents open up, and there's Wowhead tooltips, or you can close that, then open up the gear. So it's meant to be unobtrusive, and you don't have to scroll back and forth. Obviously, there are also pros if it is a static thing underneath, because if someone is offline, then you can easily, you know, look up their talents as well. But, you know, we like having the overlay with how it makes things feel interactive.
So the World of Warcraft Armory extension is a panel?
Yeah, it's the panel that goes below.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
then the Wowhead one is the overlay, and I believe both are optimized for mobile. So
okay, so that means you can use both. Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought you had to choose one of them. No,
No,
you can
you
use
don't have
both.
to choose.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. But yeah, I think. Oh, actually, speaking of social media from earlier on, we never went on to the last one. Here.
Okay.
So we talked about Snapchat. We talked about wrong direction. Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Instagram would be, from my perspective, the way I use it, it's my most casual in terms of gaming. I don't necessarily take pictures of games. If something interesting happens in terms of games, if I would, get a new leggings of World of Warcraft theme or something, then I could take a picture of that. But otherwise, a lot of my pictures on Instagram are just pictures of me. And I think a lot of people who follow, I think Instagram is great for you to be visible to your audience and remind them that you're there, if people scroll through Instagram and then they see you, they're like, oh yeah, I know him or her, oh cool, this person is doing this at the moment. I have tried to,
I feel like Instagram is very lifestyle and positive, so on Twitter you might say, hey, I'm having a bad day, we'll stream, but on Instagram it's like, it's beautiful outside.
Exactly. That is very true. That is very true. Yes, that is very true. My latest pictures, for example, have been me being outside. It's outside, I'm happy, it's sunny, and then meanwhile on Twitter, actually I've been having a pretty bad day today. No, but it really is, because I think in a way you can compare Instagram to being your kind of your show off face, almost.
Your fantasy, airbrush, very perfect.
Yeah. Exactly. And then if it's not perfect, it's probably in your Instagram story, right? When you're being silly, sticking your tongue out a little bit too much, or using a filter, that can be in your Instagram story. And if it's more text based, then it's on Twitter. So I would use Instagram for that. And I don't have Facebook. I use Instagram, but I don't use Facebook. Actually, what I've started doing lately is that whenever I post on Instagram, I auto post on Facebook too, because what it does is it creates a folder of all my pictures. And
Facebook, both companies, they're the same brand.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it makes sense to connect the two. I still feel like my Facebook is not really doesn't really provide anything new to people, so I don't really advertise it, but as soon as I can find a use for it, a real use for it, I will probably try and grow it. But because I think having a growing platform on all social medias is great, so I would recommend trying to get that. But on Instagram, I would suggest taking pictures of yourself and try to not make the same picture every single time. That's one of the things that a lot of people make the mistake of, because if you look at, even my pictures can be somewhat similar to some extent, but I try to vary a little bit, by varying my background. If I always take a picture with my headset on with the computer in the background, if every picture is like that, when a new person tunes into your Instagram, they're gonna scroll down. It's like, oh, all the pictures are the same, and then they just leave. But if they see different pictures, then they're like, oh, cool, this is outside in the sun, or oh, this is with her computer screen, sorry.
Here's a picture of your cat.
Picture of your cat, if you have that. I used to, like Perk mentioned earlier, I used to have a thing where I posted leggings every third picture. I don't do that anymore because I kind of ran out of leggings. I did that for a whole year, and then I stopped because I felt like it was limiting my posting on Instagram, so I stopped doing that. But I still have that. If people scroll down, they can still see that. Or if, for example, a body picture. I think body pictures are really interesting, like whether you're a guy or a girl, just seeing full
outfit
body.
Of the day. Yeah.
Outfit of the day, or just seeing you stand somewhere. And it's not just a girl thing. If you guys check out, for example, these really successful Fortnite streamers, what's his name? Daquan, TSM Daquan, or TSM Myth. all of those guys, you can clearly see, I think these guys have help with their social media, because, you know, at that level, you have amazing talent managers, but you can see even from their Instagram, they're posting selfies, they're posting body pictures, because I know a lot of guys are like, yeah, but people don't look at faces if I'm a guy. They're not interested. They're only interested if you're a girl. But it's not the case. Take interesting photos.
Even in the written guide we have with Sko and Zarulal, like they're both into fitness as well. So, you know, their Instagram has, you know, bodybuilding tips which help show like, hey, you can stream and be really passionate, but you can also be, you know, healthy and in shape and share, you know, other hobbies, whether you're standing in front of a museum or you're like standing, flexing, showing off your, you know, muscles.
Or like you're outside having a cup of coffee, just take a picture, you know, just show yourself sipping the cup of coffee, just to have variation in your pictures, you know. One day you're having coffee, next day you're showing off your, I don't know, your new World of Warcraft t-shirt, and maybe the next day you are outside picking up snow from the ground. Just try to vary your pictures, that's all.
Right, and it can strengthen your brand. Like if you're posting pictures of yourself like dressed up and you feel confident, or you're doing outfit of the day, when you post the picture of the Warcraft shirt, you'll have more authority because people say like, oh, this person, you know, dresses cool. They're wearing this shirt because they really like it, not because someone maybe told them to put it on and, you know.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Like people can relate. Like maybe they have the same picture. I mean, maybe they have the same shirt, or maybe they want the same shirt. I remember one of the first selfies that I posted. So originally my account was mainly World of Warcraft screenshots. This was before I was streaming. So my way of sharing my gaming was through screenshots on Instagram. So Instagram was actually my first social media. And one of my first selfies that I ever posted on my Instagram was a picture of me wearing the Epic shirt. So it was, you know, there was a thought behind it. This is World of Warcraft related, and it's a picture of me, and I'm going to post this on my World of Warcraft account. And it made sense. So, you know, just try to think of ways to vary your own pictures and put that on Instagram. Try to not take the same picture all the time. A lot of times it does end up being the same, but try to avoid doing that. For example, when I'm going to start streaming on Twitter, most of my pictures look the same, but the thing with Twitter is that people don't normally scroll through your pictures on Twitter. Right?
Like there's so much in between. To people, Twitter is like, people just don't care after 15 minutes. It's just
exactly. It's in the moment, and then after that, it's lost in the sea. But Instagram, people scroll through because those pictures are there to stay, are there to be, you know, scrolled through and looked at. So try to work on varying your pictures, and I think that would be my best advice for Instagram. And Discord is something that we mentioned earlier as well. Yeah, I think that covers all the social medias too.
Yeah.
There is a button to use to see all media posts, true, but not many people use it. So like if you're repeating the similar picture for your going live tweet, it's okay. And that's another thing. If you're going live on Twitter, if you're going live on Twitch, you should on Twitter also post that you're going live. And if you can, use a picture for it too. And also on your Instagram, you can take a picture with a filter or whatever. The picture doesn't have to look good. It can be unserious and just say like, hey, by the way, guys, I'm live. And then they can swipe up to watch you. So on Instagram, I don't know if you guys knew this, but you can attach a link to your Instagram story. And if people click your story, if you tell them to swipe up, they can do that if they want to. And that'll take them straight to your stream.
Cool.
So an extra thing to know in case you don't know.
Unrelated to all this, the people on Wowhead not doing the stream have data mined some healing and utility Azerite power changes. So if you care about classes, you should check them out. It seems that each class had a few utility traits changed in some way, which our writers will be incorporating into their guides. They're doing Azerite recommendation guides. So Carry On just was they're pinging me and I'm like, there's hotfixes.
That's cool.
So
live news. News. But yeah, do we have any questions from Sus?
We answered one question.
Internet.
Sean, I know. Yep.
Oh, you're back.
Sean, you says, how about naming your stream? Should you use catchy names for the name of your main character? I think we kind of covered this before, but like if no one really knows the name of your character, probably you want the catchy name unless like you're playing the most famous character ever, in which case you probably don't need our beginner advice.
Oh, like for the title, you mean?
Yeah, like, I'm playing, like, Night Song. It's like, well, who's that? So yeah, I'd say the catchy title, unless, like, your character is, like, extremely famous. But, then you wouldn't be in the situation of needing the advice.
Yeah, I would probably not use my character name in my title. I would use what I'm doing in my title.
Right.
So if I'm doing Mythic Plus, I would put Mythic Plus. If I'm doing raids, I would put raids. I would also recommend doing things, content which is which involves your community. So rather
like
than
sub runs.
Yeah, exactly. Subscriber runs or just follower runs or anything like that. Just involving people, getting to know people, and letting them have a chance to play with you and speak with you.
Cool. Yeah. I had a question. It wasn't in the guide, but since we're talking about communities, and it sounds weird to say talking about building communities, but maybe tips for like interacting with the community, whether it's like at a convention or, doing things like subscriber runs, or just, ways to make sure that the people are feeling special. So like you're not ignoring them, but you're also not like, being overwhelmed trying to respond to like thousands of people. So, ways to make just like, everyone feel special and like happy with each other. Any thoughts on that, whether it's the stream or at like conventions, how to,
That's
get along with you.
Yeah, that's the thing which becomes a bigger problem the more you grow, right? Because it starts off and like, my first 10, 20 viewers, it's like I knew all their names, I knew all their ages, I knew where they all lived, kind of, countries and like all sorts of stuff, right? And then like as your viewership grows, you know less and less about each person. I think I've still managed to keep my community pretty close-knit considering the size that we are today. And I think a lot of it has to do with my personal interest. I love getting to know people. And I think also involving people in what I do. So my raids, a lot of people who join my raids, I end up getting to know them because, we end up speaking on Discord together. A lot of people who come to the events that I attend to, I meet them. We get to speak like that as well. And that also connects us as well. I think it's important to have a limit at some point and make that very clear to people as well. So for example, I always make it clear to people that I'm gonna meet that, hey, I might be busy, etc. Like don't come to a convention only to spend time with me. Come to a convention if you think that you would have fun being there, regardless if you get to see me a lot or not. And also getting to know other people in the community, because I don't want people to
expectations.
Forget. Exactly. I don't want people to have expectations, because when I'm streaming, I am 100% with the viewers, right? But there's hours when I'm not streaming, right? And when you're meeting people, when you're at the same event, I think some people tend to forget that, hey, like not all hours is hours that she wants to be there speaking, because that's another thing. I've had people tell me like, hey, like why don't you speak so much or something as you usually do? And it's like, well, actually I'm tired, I don't want to necessarily speak right now. I just want to sit here and chill. And that alone makes me uncomfortable to hang out with people, because it's like, oh, that's an expectation. In that case, I'd rather, sit in my hotel room alone. So to avoid those things, I warn people beforehand to like, we're going to have activities that we do together, but we have to also remember to have a somewhat respect and distance, to not overstep each other's boundaries. And I think those things become more important the bigger you grow, especially if you try to keep a close-knit community like I do. I think I have one of the most close-knit communities out there. I love my community. They are amazing. And I think everybody who has ever seen me at an event knows that, because there's always like 15, 20, 25 people around me. There's always so many people from the community. We always organize a dinner on the first days of the community, of the conventions, to have dinners. Like, everyone has been awesome and amazing, but there's always, you know, bound to be some kind of misunderstanding at some point. And I think it's important to, you know, recognize those things and be open about it, so there's no misunderstanding whatsoever.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's definitely, you know, good advice for people. I'd also say, like, if you're working at a convention, like, sometimes you're doing work stuff, or like you're trying to make a deadline, or maybe you just finished like a stream for a sponsor or a brand, or you're, you know, casting or hosting something, and then it's like you may be a little low energy after that.
Exactly.
Then, so
that's when it's hard to be super talkative, and, you know, like, you may not be the most fun person, but people have been really nice to me, honestly. I find myself, like, someone knows, like, yeah, she's been streaming for 5 hours now, and she has another streaming slot in an hour, for example. Let's say that happens, and then, like, because they know that, they went and bought food for me, so I don't have to go and buy it, and, you know, just little things like that. While I'm streaming, sometimes they bring food for me, and like, people have been really, really helpful. And I think people have been very understanding of, you know, somewhat boundaries as well, and understanding that, you know, I don't want to always speak. Sometimes I don't want to speak. Sometimes I just want to be quiet because I've been speaking for too long the whole day. So yeah. And yeah, I think these are things that you have to consider as you grow bigger as a streamer, to remember yourself and not feel overwhelmed with messages. And also, I tell people sometimes, like, hey, I know that there's a lot of people who've messaged me on Discord, but I just haven't had time to go through them. But I will go through them. Let's say maybe I specify a day. Like, I'll probably go through all the messages on Monday, for example. Then people know, like, okay, I'm not gonna, you know, bother her too much. But now I know that she probably won't look at it at all until Monday. And sometimes messages get lost as well, because you know, one of the features that I really miss in Discord is an unread button, or like mark as unread.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because I click a message, but then I'm tired or something, so I miss, you know, to reply to the person, and then I forget. But those messages get lost. So then I tell people, like, hey, if you haven't had a response from me for a while, just bump your message. Just type bump, and then, like, and leave it there. It's okay to ask me as well, if it's not, you know, every single day, Annie, have you read the message? Have you read the message? But it's okay to, like, bump it sometimes, and also, like, you know, remind me if it's been long and I haven't responded it.
Cool. Let's see. Just Sass chimed in saying, yes, unread. I so badly want that feature.
Yeah, it's really needed. That's number one. And number two is categories of people. Like, I would love it if I could specify, like, these are, for example, business people. These are, for example, my subscribers. These are, for example, other streamers. I would love it if I could organize people like that, because that way I can just organize it better and get back to people better, and I would be able to prioritize better as well.
Yeah. I think that's about it for questions. So, yeah, I mean, last call chat with questions, you know, we covered a lot of stuff. I learned a lot too. Because, you know, I just do this stream. I don't really do my own stream stuff. I just sort of generate
You helped too, giving me the idea of, you know, announcing new emotes. I'm still thinking about it, like, that's actually a good idea. But yeah, there's always room to improve in anything that you do, in my opinion. And I think always having an open mind, listening to people, taking advice from everywhere, taking inspiration from everywhere, I think is very important. And try to build your own community and also get involved in other communities. For example, if you're into Mythic Plus, try to get involved into the Mythic Plus community, you know? Check out...
Yeah, like, don't just try to be by yourself and, like, making enemies. Like, I mean, that's sort of advice anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I see someone mentioning it. So on Saturday, this is only this is only, what's the word? I forgot what word it is. Basically, this only applies to people who play on EU. Relevant, thank you.
Okay.
This is only relevant to people who play on EU. On Saturday, I will do the same thing as I did last Saturday, and that was to boost people in Heroic Argus. So what we did last time was from 4 p.m. CEST, so Swedish time, or realm time in EU, from 4 p.m. until midnight, so 8 hours. All we did was basically boost people in Heroic Argus to get the Valid Spellwing, because we all know that mount is very pretty.
Yeah, it's
even
amazing.
changes color, and which I, by the way, did not know until last week. I never realized it switches color. I don't know why.
It's so cool.
It is. It's really pretty. But yeah, and I will help people again this Saturday. So if you're interested in that, you can tune into my stream on Saturday and get a free boost, of course. And we will try to boost as many people as possible. Last time we boosted 136 people. We're hoping to boost more than that this Saturday.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. It was really fun. I actually had no idea that there's that many people who need a boost. I think I'm living in my own bubble, in my own community, where I know, like, you know, we've gotten this for everyone pretty much like a long time ago, but there's a lot of people who still need it, so that's why we
like sites like the Friendship Burb and like Perky Pugs are just swarmed with people trying to get those mounts before they go away. So.
And I think Perky Pugs is NA based, right?
Yeah.
Are both of them NA based?
Let me check. Let me see. So Perky Pugs is events and announcements.
Because I've told people who are NA to go to Perky Pugs.
Yeah, they are, I believe they are NA based. And yeah, they have a Discord as well. Tons of stuff going on in there. Yeah,
someone said they're both NA.
Yeah. So
but yeah, no, you don't need to have
and board, but both NA, and you just hop into their, you know, Discord channel and look for times that they're running.
Yep. And no to the answer if you need any kind of gear, skill, experience. You don't need anything. You just need to be able to listen, because there's going to be some slight instructions. For example, in the last phase, to just, you know, just stay dead, as an example, or little things like that, and that's pretty much it. Anyone can come and join us. That's the idea. Like, what I do is that I first invite 14-15 people who are, you know, geared and experienced, and then I have my so-called strong group, and then after that I invite anyone. Just like, I click randomly. I don't care what item level, what experience, or what anything, and then those people get boosted. So that's the way we do it.
Yeah, so that's just like a perfect example of building a community and, you know, having personal interactions with them, and not just being like, I'm getting this mount, like, bye everyone, now I'm not, you know, doing mounts again. And that's really cool. I love seeing people helping each other.
Yeah, indeed. Like, if you're a new streamer, new time streamer, something that you can also do in terms of engaging with your viewers is boost people. I know it can be hard to, you know, convince the whole raid to boost your viewers, but maybe if it's like a Mythic Plus group with you know, a couple friends, then maybe you could boost your viewers for free. That's actually how I started off. When I started streaming 4 years ago, one of the main things that I did initially was challenge modes. So I used to sell challenge modes for gold, and that's how I, you know, because I really wanted TCG mounts, so I wanted to make gold so I could buy those mounts, right? But when I was streaming, we also sometimes gave them away for free, and my friends were okay with that. They would usually be on Skype with me, so it was like, you know, they were nice enough to want to help me, and it worked for my stream as well, because people became interested. Like, hey, I'd like a boost in challenge modes too, because I don't have any gold.
Cool seeing how you grew.
Yeah, that's actually how I started off. So if you are there boosting people in Mythic Plus, that's kind of similar to what I did 4 years ago.
Yeah. That's really interesting to hear, you know, someone that started off doing, like, you know, challenge modes and, like, more, like, high-end time stuff, and now you've been able to embrace the collecting more fully. And it's interesting seeing how, like, you're not just being like, oh, here's some advice to follow. It's like, you know, like, when I was smaller and starting off, like, this is what I did, and for a variety of factors it worked, and, you know, now I'm this, you know, full-time streamer, and I, you know, travel and have this awesome community.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because I started with Mythic Plus, my friends who are in the group would tune in, right? So then I have a few viewers, and then sometimes the Mythic Plus group would change because, you know, maybe the healer is not here today, so we have a different healer. Then that healer also follows and watches the stream, and then at some point I was raiding, so I let the raid know, like, hey, by the way, I'm streaming. You know, there's many ways of, like, you know, slowly letting people know. Include your friends, people that are around you, and that's where you start. And then at some point, hopefully, you get noticed by someone with a bigger community who give you some exposure. And that's how it happened for me. So I was doing challenge modes initially, you know, I had maybe 5 viewers, and then more and more people started noticing me.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing stories like that.
It was really awesome. And I think also because I was boosting challenge modes at the time, I guess nowadays boosting Mythic Plus is made probably more common than boosting challenge modes back then. Back then there wasn't that many groups that were boosting challenge modes, so I guess I had that as an advantage. There wasn't many, especially like girls. I don't think there was a single girl that I knew who actually boosted challenge mode, so that also definitely helped me with exposure. But I think just try to find your place, trying to find a way to involve your community, and I think that's the best way to at least start off.
Awesome. So yeah, Sass is telling me that the giveaway winner is Joey Ruin. So congrats to Joey.
Congratulations.
And I think it would be a good time to remind people that we have a Wowhead shop. So yeah, if we can do a little stream with that as well. And maybe a transition is that it's also good for streamers to start thinking about merchandise when you get a certain following that represents your brand.
That is true.
Yeah.
I'm actually considering to maybe make some merch in time for BfA myself, and that is something that you know, any streamer could consider doing too.
I know a lot about merch now, and so does Sass. Like storefronts and what's easier and what has less overhead costs. Yeah, maybe for another show I can talk about pins and plushies and shirts and
especially the idea of plushies.
Sass knows all about plushies. Like, what prototype are we on, Sass, for the Wowhead Rocket plushie? I have like 100-long email chain from Sass.
Oh my god, really?
Being like, oh, like, can it smile differently? Can the metallic stand up? Can it be a softer material? So we're on prototype 5. He has 5 Wowhead plushies at his house. And we have to get tested.
God. Yeah.
So, like, in EU has different safety standards than US. So it's just like... But yeah, it hopefully will be live for BlizzCon. Hopefully the plushie will be live for BlizzCon.
Yeah, you internet it down for a sec, but it's back. But yeah, as you can see, there's a bunch of different t-shirts, different colors, tank tops, hoodies. There was a phone case right before this picture, and there was some mugs as well. So it's pretty good. I see someone mentioning World of Warcraft gameplay. So as long as you are talking about something which is World of Warcraft related, it is completely fine. Another Twitch tip. So if you're in a directory, you do not have to be playing that game specifically, but you have to be doing something which is related to the game. That's why, for example, if you're painting a picture of a World of Warcraft character, that is also okay to be in the World of Warcraft section, even though you're not playing the game in that moment. So
yeah. So, like, we're talking about stream advice specifically for people interested in WoW, so a lot of advice doesn't apply, like, oh, like, we're doing Violet Spellwing runs and challenge modes and, you know, looking for data mining on Twitter. That sort of stuff is very WoW-specific.
Yep. I like how this... Oh, wrong side. I like how this Murloc is still just, like, chilling here above Perk. It actually suits. Maybe I'll just keep him there.
Yeah, I was wondering that. I'm like, oh, like, he kind of fits.
Yeah. The Warlock. If you don't know, it's actually an emote, so if you're subscribed to the stream, you can type Wowhead Murloc? I don't know, actually. Yeah, Wowhead Murloc. That's it. That's it. But yeah, I think that covers everything, unless we have some more questions.
No, I think we've got them pretty much covered. I heard some people asking, like, oh, did you cover Sylvanas and the cinematic? And we did, but that was at the very start of the show, like 3 hours ago, and we also went over the collector's edition, which tells us way more about and Tyrande. We went over the stream. We went over the collector's edition before, and it has a lot more information. So watch the start of the stream and check out the linked articles on Wowhead, because you will, there's more information there on, like, our lore analysis and our unboxing and all that.
Oh, I just saw a question. What about your streamer name? So if you have a nickname that you've always used and it's not too common, it's not called like Dark Knight or something that's kind of common, or like, I don't know, Pink Bubbles, or Miss Gamer. If it's not something super common, I would recommend to stick to your nickname, unless your nickname is also inappropriate, of course. Try to pick a name which is not going to be mistaken for something else. So like I don't know, something that's very generic. Like, stick to something that's not super generic, but still is like easy to remember. Because if someone sees you somewhere, if someone sees you somewhere and then later on, like, they see you again, if they see your name, it shouldn't be something like I don't remember the name, or like it was like Miss I don't know, Miss Bubbles or Miss Bubbling. You know how, like, because they're so similar, like,
or like,
it's too
I'll
typical.
add an extra S on the, or like, I'll add an extra S on the end. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So try to pick something that's not super common, and is still, a name that you like, so you don't have to change it later. If you prefer, you could even use your real name, but like add something to it, Like, if I was only called Annie, I think that would be pretty boring and like probably hard for people to remember, but I added Fuchsia. And Fuchsia is pretty unique. Like, a lot of people think Fuchsia is my surname. Fuchsia is not my surname. Fuchsia is a pretty word that I discovered some years ago. It meant flower, and also is a certain shade of color that I thought was pretty. So I added it to my name, and I thought it fit together pretty nicely. So that's something else you could do. You could have your name and add another word to it. There's many things you could do. Just try to pick something that's not too typical, too generic, and avoid numbers in your name, I would say. I think that's what
I
I'd
agree
say.
with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's what I would say.
So, I think that's about
names.
it.
It hasn't happened that much. I think it happened once that my name got misspelled, so it hasn't been too bad.
Yeah, it's just like when people start adding extra letters that don't make sense. Like, if you have a name and the way it sounds isn't really how it's spelled, then it can get kind of confusing. Like, like, oh, it's like a S, not a Z, or like it's an I, not a 1, and it can get kind of weird that way. So don't try to be cutesy with names. Yeah,
and also another thing is to take a look at social media. Like, if you choose a name, check if there is a Twitch name already with that name. Check if there is an Instagram name with that name already. Try to pick something that has not been picked yet, because then you have cleaner social media.
Try not to mention like a game in case you ever want to like play a different game or rebrand.
That's
like, you don't
also
want to be,
a good
like,
point.
Annie WoW, and it's like, oh well, like Annie WoW is playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
Instead of WoW, so.
Yeah, that's true too. Try to not include your favorite game either. But yeah, I think, trying to look into social media and see that your name has not been taken everywhere is also pretty good. Like, I have Annie Fuchsia on all my social media, and it feels really good. And it's something that when I work with companies, they do mention that. They're like, oh, cool. Like, you actually have the same name on all social media, because not everybody do. Like, some people are like, actually on my Instagram, you have to add this number next to it, or like you have to add TV or, something. Try to have something that is the same on all social media. So that's also a good way of knowing if your name is generic or not, because if it's generic, it's probably taken, right? So that's what I would recommend in terms of names. I
think that's about it for questions that I have that I'm
I'm just eyeing the stream. I don't see any other questions. I think that's about it.
Yeah. Braidpaw is by my foot, and I'm trying to... Come on, Braidpaw! Jump up, baby!
I see some resubs, some subs. Thank you, guys.
Oh, we got him! We got him!
He's actually here!
We got him! Yes, we got
He's
the cat.
actually here.
We have a cat. Come on, Braypaw. Come on, baby. Oh, now he's expanding.
He doesn't want to stay.
Never wants to stay. It has to be on his terms, and we had a very long stream, and we didn't talk about cats. Oh, he's being such a good boy.
Oh. All right. Well, I believe this is our cue to say goodbye.
Yep.
I think Brightpaw's here like, hey, mommy, it's enough now. Okay?
I know.
It's enough now. You've been in front of the computer long enough. Okay? Now it's my time for attention. It's like, I'm going away now, and you better follow me, or I'm going to be mad.
He's like reaching out his paws to grab the mouse. He's like, I need to eat this headset cord again.
Yep. But yeah, we're gonna wrap up here, everyone. I hope the streaming section was useful, and thank you, Elgato, for wanting us to do this. It's awesome. I think it's been very useful information, hopefully, for a lot of people. And yeah, thank you guys for supporting in the chat by following, subscribing, resubscribing, or anything else. Everyone on Wowhead front page, hello to you guys too. You guys also matter. Thank you guys for supporting. And everyone who is using the Wowhead subscription, Wowhead Premium, I think it's called. Yes.
Yeah.
The Wowhead Premium subscription on the Wowhead website. Thank you guys as well. Shout out to you guys for supporting that extra little bit. The subscription, if you're not familiar with it, is a way for you to remove all the ads on the website, and also gives you some extra perks, such as having your own color when you're typing in the forums. And also, if you are a subscriber here or using the premium subscription, I can't speak. Too much speaking today. You will also get a special color in Discord.
Yeah.
Extra perks, not extra peculiars. You don't get Perculia, okay?
No, only Brightpaw does.
Yeah, only Brightpaw.
I can't wait for you to get a cat. It will be so fun.
I know. Later this month.
Yep.
But yeah, bye-bye, everyone. I don't think we'll do a high five today because Perk is busy with Brightpaw, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm not crying. You are. I will see you guys. We will see you guys next week. Same time, 10 p.m. CEST, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And we'll be covering probably more on the battle for Lordaeron bit, which is active on servers on Tuesday/Wednesday, depending on what region you play on.
Yep.
So yeah. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you guys for watching and supporting. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Say goodbye, Brightpaw. Bye. Bye.
Bye.